Good evening. Prior to us coming back, calling back to order, I'd like to refer anybody who needs translator services to Miss Gladys Duarte in the back. Welcome.
Thank you, President West. Buenas tardes. Hola, habla Gladys. Si necesitan servicios de interpretación al español, por favor de llamar 1-805-324-7680 e ingrese el código de acceso 795-524-421 más la tecla numeral. Este es el número totalmente gratuito. Nuevamente el número de teléfono 1-805-324-7680. Ingreso el código de acceso 795-524-421 más la tecla numeral. También puede acceder a estas instrucciones a nuestro sitio web mcs4kids.com. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Ms. Duarte. Welcome to the Modesto City Schools 62nd regular board meeting of June 7th, 2021. This meeting is now called to order. In closed session, the board gave direction to legal counsel. We will now do roll call. Trustee Brown.
Present.
Thank you. Trustee Irvin.
Present.
Thank you. Trustee Maestas.
Present.
Thank you. Trustee Marks.
Present.
Thank you. Trustee Mejia is joining us via Teams, and he is here. Vice President Lopez.
Present.
And President West. Please stand and join me for a moment of silence. Thank you. You may be seated. Good evening, everyone. This open session of the Board of Trustees is being live streamed at the direction of the board. The live stream is available on the district's website, and the recordings will be available for viewing the day after the school board meeting. Modesto City School Board meetings have been adjusted for the public to follow state guidelines on social distancing until further notice. This action was taken in response to the Governor's Executive Order N2520 and Resolution 1920-17, delegating authority to take necessary action to protect students and staff from the spread of coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, adopted by Modesto City Schools on March 18, 2020. Regarding public comment, Modesto City Schools has provided an opportunity for the public to provide comment. It is outlined on the agenda. The public has been given an opportunity to call in and leave a voicemail, send us a comment via an email address, or appear in person before the board. This practice will continue until further notice. For members of the public that are interested in commenting in the future, we welcome your comments. I want to call your attention to the fact that if you wish to address the board during the period for public comment on a subject not on the agenda, you must complete a public presentation request card and submit it to the board president prior to the period for public comment. Only those who have had submitted cards will be called on to speak, and no cards will be accepted after the period has begun. Every person who wishes to address the board must fill out a card, and you will find the cards in the lobby. So that brings us to our next item, which is our Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. We're moving on now to item A5, and this is Superintendent Noguchi's welcome and announcement.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, President West. And I just have two short comments. The first one is I really want to thank staff and staff for organizing some wonderful graduations this last week. I was absolutely amazed at how well our high school graduations and our promotions came off, given that we were in a COVID environment and we had a lot of protocols and a lot of guidelines that we had to adhere to, and I was very pleased with the graduations that I attended. I know that didn't happen by accident. That happened by design, and truly it was a collaborative effort, and I was very proud of the work that was done. The next piece I want to share is something else that I'm very proud of, and I know that you will all join me in this. Modesto City School student board rep that introduced herself last board meeting, Rana Baranka, has been named the state board student rep. So that is a wonderful honor. So it's going to be interesting to see how she balances both local board and also a state board. And if you think about that, she is going to be representing 6 million students in her voice as she brings really voice to equity and inclusion and diversity to that board. We've been working with her 4 or 5 months and really just preparing for this whole process. So incredibly proud. I know we're going to learn a lot from her. We're going to absolutely learn about her insights at the state level, and so I'm proud of her for being selected in that position. I look forward to working with her. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, President West.
Thank you so much. We're moving on now to the Board of Education member reports, and I see Trustee Brown.
I want to piggyback on what Dr. Noguchi has said about the graduations and give some comments that I heard from the public and that I noticed myself. As I attended 4 different graduations, each one of them had its own character, but the background effort that happened to make it all come about was nothing short of amazing. And I recognized people that I had never seen before at graduations, just busy behind the scenes, and I could tell that it was an effort of the entire district to make it happen. And I recognized that what we did as a board to try to make the experience a great one for the students was not just the board's effort and desire, it was the desire of everyone in the district. It was fun to see students recognized with our brand new civic engagement recognition at each of those graduations, and realize that that only happened because we tightened our requirements and made sure that it could happen this year instead of waiting till next year. So that was huge to see that come about so quickly. And I heard from the public just questions about how we had pulled it off to come up with such an amazing event for each one of these graduations. Some from people that have been extreme critics of the district in the past, just complimenting us for the the presentation and the way that it came about. And as I was sitting there on the stand, each time I thought to myself, we don't have to go back to doing the same old thing every time going forward. I'd like us to look at what went well this time and in many ways make that the new normal and really do what we need to recognize and make it an exceptional event for the students and their families. So thank you to everyone in every department. Everyone, I was thinking, we should have some kind of a documentary that shows the behind the scenes that let us have this event. And I have to give one more shout out to whoever let me come to this board meeting without a peeling head. At the Davis graduation, I forgot to put sunscreen on my head, and I realized when I got there that I was in deep trouble. And so somebody came up with some sunscreen and made it possible for me, not only me, but for Mike Scheuer to experience that with our bald heads and not walk away with a sunburn. So thank you.
Thank you. I think next was Trustee Maestas.
Thank you. Trustee Brown, you need a hat. Like I had a hat. And so I want to just echo that, not about the sunscreen, but just the graduations themselves were phenomenal. It's great. It's my first time being able to participate in the Modesto City ones as a new board member. And I just want to also give a shout out to all of the people that put that together, the behind the scenes people especially, that put waters out for every chair before each graduation. That was very thoughtful of them and very impressive. So I had the opportunity to do 3 of the graduations last week, or 2 weeks. It was 2 weeks ago. Just a couple other things that I was able to be a part of since the last meeting. I attended a information session on the before and after school programs for the elementary schools that are going to be going on next year. I was extremely impressed by the Boys and Girls Club presentation for the after school program, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what they bring to my kids' school for that program, and also for the before school. That's going to be transformative for a lot of parents to be able to have the child care opportunity. It's going to be really big for our community. And so I am extremely impressed by the presentation, and I'm looking forward to see how this really helps our community next year for all the schools to have that before and after school program for the kids. The last thing here, I participate in the school's infrastructure financing agency board meeting, the CFA board meeting. Learned about some of the bonds that we have that we're working on, and the things that are going on in our districts, and the shared the districts within our cities. And some good news is I believe we've got a bond that's being paid off this year, which is going to be pretty cool. Yeah. So very excited about that. That's the update that I had, though. And I also wanted to say one more thing. My oldest son just finished 6th grade, and so he's gonna be going out of district and then coming back when he gets to high school, just based on where we live. But I want to personally thank all of his teachers, staff, everyone that's worked to make my son's experience and then my 2 kids' experience the last 6 years just top-notch education. And I just really want to shout them out and say thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, all that you've done for my kids the last 6 years. Thanks.
Thank you. Vice President Lopez?
So, in the attempt to not be redundant to some degree, because I really want to thank everyone for the graduations, I will tell you a story from one of the parents that I met at graduation. And it started, I met her because she thought that I was one of the students graduating. So I'm like, oh, I need to sit down and talk to you because you just made my week. So she was just very appreciative of the effort and the time that we took to at least give something. Maybe it wasn't, she said, maybe it wasn't all our family, but it was, in that case, it was her and her daughter seeing their graduate. And it's like, it was very nice put. And I would agree with her 100%. It was different. It wasn't the best circumstance by all means, but it was special. It was special because everyone here, everyone out there, everyone in the schools took the time to make it special, given limitations. So thank you very much for all that. And so I got to attend Downey, Modesto High, and Hanshaw, and I also got to witness my brother walk the stage, which was very important to me and very, very, very important to my mom. So again, thank you for giving that to a lot of moms and a lot of families.
Thank you. Trustee Irvin?
Yes, again, I am going to beat the dead horse with, really appreciation and gratitude for the dedication and hard work that went into planning the graduation ceremonies, given the current state of pandemic with no practice. Staff really did great, from the support staff, the principals, the teachers, the students, all did well in pulling this off without any rehearsals or practices. I got a chance to go to Roosevelt, Davis, and Elliott, and it was so nice to see our students get a chance to walk the stage and family members get a chance to see them. It was a breath of fresh air, a little hot at a couple of them, but again, I didn't need the sunscreen for obvious reasons, but even though I got a light tread up there. So I really wanted to thank everyone for their dedication and hard work in making our students' day of recognition and success and accomplishing their immediate goal of high school graduation a really pleasant one. Yeah.
Thank you. I have Trustee Mejia on Teams, and then Trustee Marks.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I want to ditto that, and I want to add that I was pretty happy to I was at the two promotions for Henshaw and for Mark Twain. I was able to see them, part of it translated, or most of it translated, and I thought that was very, very important, at least for a lot of the families that couldn't understand. So I thought it was already thoughtful, that the language was very important, and so and also had the opportunity to speak briefly for say a few words. So that was incredible. That was amazing. And so I just want to also ditto a lot of the stuff that was already been said. I also was able to participate in the a parent celebration that Mady and her team put together for parents virtually, and it was amazing. There was so much things going on, that singing, performing, all kinds of things. So it was really incredible to participate in the. It was like a recognition. Thank you for the year of all the parents that participated in all the workshops and trainings, and it was very emotional to see all the work that was put into that. So I really appreciate all the work put into that, and also appreciate that the language, because it's very important for families, especially at promotions and graduations. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Marks.
Yes, this was a unique year, and I was super happy that we could have it in person. It was the first time I've ever gone to and participated in graduation in the morning. We've never had that before, so this is our first year doing that. I thought it would be cooler, but as the morning wore on, it got hotter and hotter. So it was a surprise to me because the evening ones, the sun usually sets behind the trees and we get the shade. So I was like, oh, this is new. But it was so great to see the families there and make accommodations and then have, it was the first time we didn't have them at the school site, at Grigori or at Enoch's, at Downey. So that was new. So I thought it was great because it allowed for the participation of so many family members, for every student to have some family there at the graduation. So that was really cool. I was able to go to Mark Twain, Modesto High, and Grigori, and enjoyed all of them. They all have, like you said, their unique flavor. I've also attended the clergy council meeting this month. It was our first one since last year, since COVID hit, that we were able to meet in person, and we met at the King Kennedy Collaborative. I can't remember, they changed the name, and that's the name I remember. So it was very nice to be there with the CHP, MPD, the Sheriff's Department, the pastors from around town, and District Attorney's Office sent someone. Trying to think who else. Probation, I think, was there. So it's really great because we get to share a little bit about what's going on in the community and some of the needs, and then how we can work together. And I appreciated Becky Fortuna came to that as our rep from Modesto City Schools. And then I attended the budget, and so did President West, the Budget Advisory Council meeting. And that one was our last one, I guess, for the summer. So that was a great meeting to at least end on a good note for where we think we are with the budget and how things are going to pan out. And then lastly, I attended the delegate assembly. We usually meet in Sacramento, so this is our second year we met online. And we, Susan Heredia, the president, who is Suzanne Kitchens, was unable to attend because of health. I did not realize how poor her health really was. So she resigned her position as president, and Susan Heredia took over that position. And then I got an email like a week and a half ago, and Suzanne Kitchen passed away. So our president of CSBA, I don't know if we've ever had that in the 80 years of CSBA that it's ever happened before, but it's really a loss. Suzanne was a very special person, and we all really appreciated her quiet and just real calm demeanor. So I'm going to miss her. I know Susan Heredia will do a great job. I've known her for many years, and she will do a great job as president. She will continue on into her seat next year, so they're going to transition that. But it was a good meeting on delegate assembly, and we voted on just very few things, but it's good, and we should be in person in December, so I'm looking forward to that. And then lastly, we had our meeting with our local region of delegates and online, which is, to me, this is the best thing in COVID, is that we get to do these Zoom meetings, and I get to meet with all of them once a month, and we go through a lot of different issues. But almost everybody was talking about, are we going to do a stipend for our employees, working on contract negotiations, school, what's school going to look like next year, and almost everybody's ready to go back in person. And even up in the mountains, they have a lot of changes happening up in like Tuolumne County. So it will be interesting next year, and then most people are working towards summer school as we are. So it was very similar stories, a few bumps in the road that some of the districts are having, but I'm pleased with how our district is. It always makes me feel good to go to these because I know we're doing really well. So for all of those of you out there, if you ever see this, I enjoy hearing your stories. So don't stop telling them. So we appreciate that. Just being able to connect with other board members and know some of the issues coming up. So that's mine.
Thank you. I'm not going to go into a great deal of detail. I think we all agree the graduations they're a high point for me every year. We go through a lot of difficult things, but graduation is such a celebration for our students and the hard work that the teachers have been through. And so it's a great time. I was able to attend La Loma and Johansson, one with Dr. Noguchi and one with Trustee Maestas. And I have to say, Trustee Brown, he had the best hat. So if you need to borrow his hat next year, it was awesome. I also attended the BAC meeting with Trustee Marks, and then for the first time I attended the Salida Area Public Facilities Financing Agency on June 1st, and it was a lot of the community members and leaders from Salida. I learned a lot, so it was a really interesting meeting. So So, with that said, we're going to move on. We have a great recognition today. A7 and Miss Noonan, would you, I'm not sure if we do because I'm new.
You're okay. We don't. I can take over if you want. We don't.
I'll
have
have you go
PowerPoint.
ahead
Yes,
and start. Okay, thank you.
Sure. We don't have a PowerPoint tonight because I'm actually super excited because we have our MCS hero here in person. And tonight we only have one recognition, and typically recognitions end when the school year ends, and then they start again when the school year begins. But because of the really special nature of this recognition, I thought it would be really nice to dedicate some time, and you'll hear why. It's a really powerful story. So tonight we are recognizing our classroom teacher, John Souza from Grigori High School. Mr. Souza has made a tremendous difference in a student's life, as you will soon hear. This is absolutely exemplary for a staff member to receive an MCS Hero nomination from a parent, as these are typically internal recognitions that we receive. So this is one reason why we decided to spotlight it as tonight's sole recognition. So I do have a heartfelt letter that I'm going to read because the parent and her student, they could not make it this evening. But I would like to read that. This is all in her words. This is Miss Susan Wood, and she nominated Mr. Souza, and her words are as follows. For those of you who do not know Mr. Souza very well, we would like to take a moment to tell you what he did for my son, Chance. Chance is an extremely intelligent young man who has always tried to put forward his best effort no matter his circumstances. His academic aspirations were very high compared to any standard that we would call normal. His respect and empathy for others and his academic achievements have garnered many awards that we proudly display. He picked Grigori High School due to it being the only high school that fit his academic needs and goals. By the end of his freshman year, however, it became extremely obvious as his parent that something physically was happening to Chance. Here is where our 3-year journey began. Without revealing too many details about Chance's health, what was thought to be a manageable illness has turned into an unimaginable journey with almost 300 doctor visits to UCSF in the first year. Chance's health deteriorated very quickly, and he had accomplished none of his summer homework with the start of the school year rapidly approaching. It became apparent that he was not going to be able to start his second year of high school. I was on school grounds the day the staff returned, and I found a wonderful woman named Rosalind who told me about the home and hospital program for very sick children. The first home and hospital teacher came to our home with a stack of books in hand. After that first visit, they did not return. We believed they were overwhelmed with Chance's health condition and were just unable to help. After many meetings and phone calls, Mr. Souza took Chance on as his student. Mr. Souza was already a teacher with a full class load and taught other students after school. From the first day he came to our home, his interactions with Chance were gentle and calming. He saw Chance for who he is, a very intelligent, honest, and respectful young man, but also as a child who barely had the energy to hold his head up, wanting to continue school at a high level of learning. He saw the stack of books, looked at Chance, and told him, "Don't worry, we got this. Give me a few days to figure out a plan and I will get back to you. If you need anything, here is my number." I will from this point forward refer to Mr. Souza as John. For all the time we spent together and with the team we created, we are on a first name basis. John came back with a plan, but one that took a lot of effort to even enact. John and I went to multiple meetings and put in phone calls to doctors, district heads, and school administrators. The plan started by lowering Chance's class load to the 4 core subjects. This was not an easy task as it had not been allowed before. In a short amount of time, it became apparent that Chance's health had gone down to the point of being bedridden and unable to consume anything but a prescription liquid form of nutrition, silently confirming that even with his class load reduced to that point, it was still too much. So he was dropped down to only 2 classes. John worked with those teachers to give Chance a no mark instead of failing him. By the first semester's end, Chance had handed me a very eloquent and thought-out letter to the school. The letter laid out his intent to quit and set aside everything he had worked so hard for to focus on his health. John, by this point, was on speed dial. I took a picture of the unsigned letter, letting him know that Chance was giving up. John was here the next morning with one goal in mind: keeping Chance engaged in one class, his AP Euro class, which he put a lot of effort into and was getting an A. Now John was not only Chance's teacher, but his lifeline of not letting his failing body and worsening spirit take full control. Chance did not take the easy way out. He finished that one class with every ounce of energy he had, with me turning in work on the last day of school. He even took his AP Euro exam and received a 4+ score. All the teachers who left the door open for Chance because of John's efforts gave Chance the ability to finish his sophomore year over the following summer. John took on a monumental task, being on call at a moment's notice. He did this selflessly without pay to help give my son a fighting chance at the education he so desperately wanted and deserved. John, with a lot of persuasion, convinced me to see if we could get Chance on campus for 1 or 2 classes his junior year. John again went above and beyond, creating a team with administrators on campus, 2 teachers that were willing to have such an ill child in class, and other teachers who were willing to let John bring work for Chance to do at home. That unsigned letter mentioned earlier was passed out during the meeting before the year started, so that those who did not know Chance could paint a picture of this young man who would expect more from himself than they would. John had campus security set to take Chance between classes, and he implemented a plan of action should Chance take a turn for the worse during his time on campus. I was on the phone with the district implementing changes for life-saving medicines to be carried on campus and creating 504 plans that went to the smallest detail of Chance's needs. I thanked John. He was right that Chance being around his peers uplifted his spirit. John not only mentored Chance, but encouraged him when things looked hopeless. Chance's health had once again begun to go downhill. As a group, we decided he might have to discontinue on-campus learning. John set up for Chance to take his SAT exam and then pull out of on-campus learning. Ironically, in less than 10 days after he took the SAT, all campuses had been closed due to COVID. John made sure to let Chance know that nothing would change for him and that he would continue to teach him and encourage him throughout the pandemic. Chance and I were aware that the care he extended to not only Chance, but to myself as his mom, as I have been overwhelmed carrying a heavy burden trying to take care of my son through this difficult time, was done completely out of the kindness of his heart. John put in hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of his personal time to help Chance. We are very proud to say that Chance graduated on time with an impressive GPA. Without any doubt in our minds as his parents, Chance would have given up if not for John's presence in his life. Chance's future is very uncertain, but one thing he does know is the hard work and determination of the kind and caring man who first entered his life 3 years ago and gave him the ability to take a hold of his future he could not see after getting sick. John has left that line of communication open for Chance to continue receiving his mentorship or to even just have a friendly ear to be given advice. John is too humble to take credit for what he accomplished for our son, but I want you to know he feels this way about all students. We set a precedent that can be used for future students who may also be struggling with their health like Chance is. John exemplifies the meaning of an extraordinary teacher and human being. We are proud to know him, and after all this time, we truly call him our friend. Thank you for acknowledging our nomination for him. We believe he deserves way more, but to have his selfless acts of unimaginable kindness done for my son and I being recognized is a start. With our deepest sincerity, Susan and Chance Wood. So congratulations, Mr. Souza. That is such an exceptional story, and we can definitely hear the And Mr. Souza, at this time, President West is going to provide you with the MCS Hero Award, and then Julie Inacio is going to take your photo. So Thank you. Thank you so much.
Mr. Souza, from the bottom of our heart, we thank you. You truly are a hero. Thank you. We have a beautiful award for you. Thank you.
And that completes tonight's recognitions.
I think if we could only have one, that was a great one. What a wonderful testament for working with our students and caring so much. B4 and B3. 2 for B3, 1 for 4, and these are general. Thank you. We're looking now for the approval of the consent agenda, which is item A8. Do we have any members of the public who wish to speak on the consent agenda? Not tonight. And Ms. Noonan, are there any comments from the public via email or voicemail on the consent agenda?
No, we did not receive comments.
Thank you. It has been requested by the superintendent to pull D6, which is approval of new and revised high school course outlined math, and C6, approval of resolution number 2021-25, authorizing the execution and delivery of school impact mitigation agreements for Crossroads West specific plan area and taking related actions. Both of these items will come back in a future board meeting. Are there any other requests concerning the consent agenda? Yes, Trustee Brown?
I would just request that the public take a good look at our consent agendas because they're very full of very impactful decisions that we don't take lightly. There's a lot of great things happening in the district, and many of them are outlined in this consent agenda, so it's worth looking at. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Brown. So I'm looking for a motion.
Move.
So moved by Trustee Marks to approve the consent agenda and seconded by Trustee Irvin. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
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 Any opposed? See none. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Looking now for an approval of the order of the discussion action items, and this is without D6 and C6 that we had mentioned. I'm looking for a motion to approve the order of the discussion action items. Moved by Trustee Maestas and seconded by Vice President Lopez. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? See none. The motion carries unanimously. We're moving on now to A10, which is our period for public presentations. I want to thank everyone for attending tonight's meeting. Your attendance shows your interest in our schools, and we want to thank you. The maximum time for any one speaker is 3 minutes. Before I ask tonight's speakers to address the board, I want to clarify that we may not engage in any discussion on topics that will be raised because we are legally obligated to provide the public with advanced notice about topics that the board will be discussing. And while we cannot engage in discussion on items not on the agenda, I assure you we will listen attentively to your comments. And again, I thank you for joining us tonight. So it looks like we have one item, one card. And Ms. Chambers, would you have Tracy Miller please come to the podium and address the members of the board?
You can remove your mask if you want to.
Oh, I can. Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Hi there. Good evening. My name is Dr. Tracy Miller, and my children have attended Modesto City Schools, and now my grandchildren will be attending Modesto City Schools. I believe this is my 5th time speaking to the school board over the past 20 years. I come tonight with the same reoccurring theme of past visits to the board. I come tonight to ask, why do we continue to hire non-credentialed support staff in lieu of hiring credentialed school counselors? It appears that the district is continuing to provide counseling services through nonprofit agencies where employees are not credentialed or highly trained as school counselors. Are the parents and guardians aware that the non-credentialed staff are providing counseling services at 22 elementary sites, 4 middle schools, and 8 high schools in the district's student assistant programs? The ability for our children to have access to credentialed school counselors is really an equity issue. Access to universal support such as classroom lessons in social emotional issues, academic, college, and career planning. Individual support or support groups should not be contingent on the zip code where our children and families live. Rather, with the dramatic increase in federal funds coming to our school district, now is the time to invest in our youth. Providing short-term services and contracts to outside providers is not the best solution. What is that? Okay, sorry. The Modesto Bee reported on April 8th that the Modesto City Schools would be receiving over $91 million in federal relief funds. I ask you to reconsider using outside agencies to provide much-needed support for our students. Our children deserve to have credentialed, highly qualified, and trained professionals to address their social emotional needs. I have some questions, board, for you to consider. Are there credentialed school counselors at all of our schools where all of our students have access to them? If the answer is no, then what are the qualifications of the support staff who are on our campuses providing counseling services to our children and families? Are they credentialed by the state? Are they highly trained? And are our parents aware of the support staff on their campuses may not have the necessary state credentialed qualifications to be on the campus? And lastly, are all school sites adequately prepared to deal with the social emotional needs of our little ones coming back in the fall? Please consider making generational impact by investing in the hiring of credentialed school counselors at all of our school sites. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. Ms. Noonan, do we have any comments via email or voicemail for public presentations?
Yes, we do. I believe I have 12 total that I will read to you. The first comment is from Lori Gaines. She is the Gregory High School Mathematics Department Chair. The topic is on the pre-algebra course. The comment is as follows. Good afternoon, board members. I wanted to tell you how much we at Gregory appreciate your vote to approve the new pre-algebra course. We also discussed and debated offering the course at length, and I, along with many of you, was hesitant at first because of the inequity concern that I have about kids being placed in that class only to never be able to climb out and up to the college level, honors, and AP courses that we offer. The stipulation that the course cannot be a repeatable course and that any freshman who starts in pre-algebra will be moved on to Algebra 1 regardless of their level of success will make certain that the opportunities to move up remain intact. During our debate, I asked my colleagues why repeating Algebra 1 isn't the answer. Why should we offer pre-algebra, and will it really make a difference? They gave an emphatic yes. They said a year to build up the skills that they are lacking and the ability to increase their confidence in their ability to find success in mathematics will make an incredible difference. We also have made sure that our strongest and most veteran teachers are teaching these sections. Again, we thank you for the opportunity to make a positive difference in these students' lives, and we hope we can show you all that the vote was the right one. Lori Gaines, Gregory High School Mathematics Department Chair. The next comment is from Maurice Chambers, Johansson High School math teacher. The topic is also pre-algebra course. Comment is as follows. I would like to take the time to thank the board for listening to a teacher's perspective for a high school pre-algebra course. I believe we all dream of our students enjoying and excelling in mathematics. We will work closely with the students to ensure they are successful. With your continued support, our students' dreams can become a reality. Thank you again. The next comment is from Molly Loomis. She's a parent of an MCS student, and the comment is gender question on registration form, the topic. The comment is as follows. As a parent of an MCS student, I find it appalling that there is anything on the registration page regarding gender transition. This is not the role of the school system. The schools do not need to be involved in anything that has to do with gender transition. Stay in your lane. Stop promoting liberal, progressive ideology and stop confusing these kids. You will end up causing irreversible damage. Anything that relates to a child's health should be directed to the parents to be involved in. Also, remove the masks. Kids need to breathe. Thank you, Molly Loomis. The next comment is from Raul Barrientos, a parent and grandparent. The topic is gender question on registration form. The comment is as follows. This was left via voicemail. Hello, my name is Raul Barrientos, and then he provided his phone number. I'm calling in regarding the gender transitioning. I'm a taxpayer and I have children and grandchildren. I just really don't think that's a good way to be spending our tax-paying dollars. If somebody wants to become transgender when they're adults, that's their choice. But to start manipulating children at a young age is just wrong. Let them make that decision when they're older. Thank you. The next comment was also left via voicemail. It's from George Ingerson. He's a parent. Same topic. The comment is, yes, I'd like to leave a message about the gender transitioning paperwork that you're sending home with school kids without the parents' notification or anything. I do not think it's right or legal that you could be doing stuff with these kids without the parents' notification or authorization. My name is George Ingerson. I'm a parent of a child who goes to school in Stanislaus County, and I wish that this was not happening. This is not the right way to do things. And then he provided his phone number and address. Thank you. Have a good day. Once again, my name is George Ingerson. The next comment was also left via voicemail. It's from Marissa Rancheria. She's a parent of an MCS student. The same topic. The comment is as follows. Hello, my name is Marissa Rancheria. And then she provided her phone number. My son will be going to school soon, and I noticed that there is a call to have children choose their gender, and this is, I believe, very inappropriate. Our children should be focusing on much more important things than worrying about their identity. They have their whole life to figure out what they want to do, and they don't need to be stressed out like that. And for children to feel disassociated for their gender choices, I absolutely support them in their choice, but for everyone else, this is inappropriate for them for our taxpayer money. Thank you and have a good day. The next comment is from Sean Farmer, a parent of a soon-to-be senior. The topic is wearing of masks / plexiglass. The comment is as follows. Hello, as a parent of a soon-to-be senior, I would ask that you stand up for what is right for your students. Make a sound decision today. Stop deferring to the state. That's just an easy excuse that you've been hiding behind. Do what is right. It is time to remove the mask mandate and the plexiglass prisons that our kids have been subjected to. If there are students and teachers that want to wear them, fine, but don't require them. Our kids need healthy interaction with their peers and teachers. The last year and a half of them being isolated has greatly harmed them, not only academically, but socially. This has been a major injustice that has been perpetuated on our kids. Remember who you work for. The people who vote for you can quickly not do that next time. Do the right thing. Thank you, Sean. The next comment is from Teresa Heinrich, a parent, and the topic is wearing of masks. The comment is as follows. Follow the science. No masks for children in Modesto City schools. Let parents have the right to choose what is right for their own child. Do the research on the negative effects masks have on kids. No on mandatory masks. Preserve medical freedom. No masks required in public schools. Thank you, Teresa. The next comment is from Angela Dayton, a parent of 3 school-aged children. The topic is wearing of masks. The comment is as follows. Please do not make our kids wear masks this next school year. I have 3 school-aged children. Wearing masks is unhealthy, especially while exercising, and pointless unless you are in a sterile environment. The states that are open are doing great. Put our kids first and open up 100% no restrictions. The next comment is from Lori Roberts, a parent, and it's the same topic of wearing masks / plexiglass. The comment is as follows. Please remove the masks from our children and their teachers. Let our children breathe, and our teachers make their own decision on if they want to wear a mask or not. Please let our children breathe. Let parents be in charge of their children's health. Let our children enjoy school again by seeing smiling faces and let them play. Stop the no-touch policy and let our children be children and enjoy school and their friends. Our children have suffered enough. It's time for masks to be taken off. And remove the plastic all around them in school. Enough is enough. Thank you, Lori Roberts. The next comment is from Amy Hughes, a parent and teacher, and the topic is on wearing of masks. The comment is as follows. I am a former MCS teacher and parent of an MCS student. I would like to express my concern for our younger students, and really all students, being required to wear a mask all day. At this point, many states and schools are no longer requiring this, and our district should also be considering lifting this requirement for next school year, especially for kindergarten through 3rd grade. I recently went to a kindergarten orientation and met in the cafeteria with other parents and the principal. The principal was amazing. However, it was hot and hard to breathe. I was only in there for an hour. I can't imagine my 5-year-old having to wear a mask all day. In addition, this age group needs to see facial expressions for social cues and mouth position for pronunciation. I have always wanted my daughter to attend this school. However, now we are looking into a private school where kindergarten through 3rd grade are not required to wear masks. I urge MCS to consider this issue and also to get community and parent feedback about this issue. From a concerned parent and teacher, Amy Hughes. And the last comment is from Julie Smith, an MCS parent and teacher. The topic is combination classes, and the comment is as follows. Dear MCS board members, my name is Julie Smith, and I am both a parent of MCS students and a dedicated teacher in this district. I am writing today to discuss the practice of combination classes in our elementary schools. Many of these classes were hastily thrown together last September, and I, among others, accepted the decision and understood that it must have been due to extreme necessity. I ended up losing my 6th grade class and instead taught a 5th/6th grade combo. The problem with this model is the obvious. As much as I wanted to teach to the needs of every child, doing so in a combination classroom is impossible. Ultimately, 5th grade students are given, in quotes, busy work, while I taught 6th grade standards to the 6th graders. Then the 6th graders are given, in quotes, busy work, while I taught the 5th grade standards to 5th grade students. It is a huge waste of instructional time that will be needed more than ever this next year. And yet, administration is planning to continue this practice next year. For our students' sake, please discuss this practice. All research indicates that combination classes that are not created intentionally, but rather a random mix of students, slow students' academic growth. Not only that, but I witnessed firsthand social issues that arose from this class model. I had 6th graders who were resentful of having to spend their 6th grade year stuck with 5th graders, and they let the 5th graders know every time they had the chance. Sincerely, Julie Smith, a teacher at Everett Elementary, 5th and 6th grade. And that concludes all of the public comments.
Thank you, Ms. Noonan. As a reminder, although we cannot engage in discussion or take formal action on items not on the agenda, we do thank you for following the protocol and addressing the board and for taking the time to share your views with us this evening. We will move on now to item B, which is discussion and action items, and we're starting with B1, which is a report. Parent Ambassador Program and Parent Engagement Overview. Ms. Noonan, are you ready to continue speaking? Thank you.
Yes, definitely. Fortunately, it will not be the Krista Noonan show after this presentation, so that's good. All right. Oh, great. Thank you so much. So thank you, Board President, board members, members of Cabinet, and any members of the public who are also here to watch. My name is Krista Noonan. I'm the Chief Communications Officer, and it's an absolute pleasure tonight for me to be joined by two of my coworkers. I have Mady Herrera and Tony Lamelli, who are also here, and it's a true privilege for us to give you a report on the upcoming Parent Ambassador Program that we'll be launching, as well as an overview of the different parent engagement activities that we will be implementing. So first thing, I'll start with going over the strategic goal alignment. We really see that this aligns with the Goal 1 and Goal 3 in terms of increasing student academic achievement, but also providing a safe and welcoming learning environment for our students and families district-wide. So the purpose of the Parent Ambassador Program, I'll just read it for you. So it's to provide parents with a designated parent ambassador to facilitate opportunities for them to be connected and involved with their school via student activities and athletics, school site activities and parent groups, all of which have a direct correlation to increasing student academic achievement, health, both as a child and adult, social emotional wellness, behavior and self-esteem, as well as their attendance. In terms of the Parent Ambassador Program, so we've done a lot of research and we've actually looked at other districts that have successfully launched Parent Ambassador Programs. I do want to start off by saying Ms. Mady Herrera and her team previously it was Student, Parent, and Community Support Services. They have done an absolutely phenomenal job with engaging parents. I think over the past year with COVID especially, they were able to shift to a digital environment, so you'll see those metrics a little bit later in this presentation. But the Parent Ambassador Program really came out of that need that's been identified of how can we build deeper relationships with parents. And in order to do that, you really need to start with trust. It's not an overnight process. It definitely takes time. So as you can see from the implementation timeline, what our eventual goal is to have one parent ambassador at every single school site. But what we've been able to do with this initial concept of the program is we've been able to ensure that every school site will have coverage by a parent ambassador. And Ms. Herrera will actually go into it and show you an example of, for example, their work week, how they would be spread across different sites to be able to accomplish that. But again, it's about supplementing the efforts that the sites are already doing, and to add an additional component of that relationship building and the trust building. So as you can see, the first school year, and I should mention as well, it's mentioned later in the presentation, so the board has already approved the first year funding. You did this on May 10th. So this first year of the upcoming school year, we would be hiring 12 parent ambassadors. It would be a 10-month arrangement. We would have one parent ambassador coordinator, which would basically be the manager over the parent ambassadors. And what we're looking at for that first year is 7 at the elementary school, 2 at junior high, and 4 at high school. And then so on. You can see the other years, what our projected plan is in order to be able to cover all of our sites. And we would definitely ensure that the parent ambassadors had a neighborhood focus and that they were connected. So for example, I'll just give an example. It probably wouldn't be feasible to have a parent ambassador covering, say, Shackelford and then covering Beard Elementary, because they're on completely separate sides of the city. So it's really about establishing those neighborhood contacts. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Herrera, and she's going to go into the expectations of a parent ambassador as well as giving you examples of the work week. Mady?
Thank you. Good evening, Board President West, Trustees, Superintendent Noguchi, Cabinet members, and community guests. I am Mady Herrera with Parent Engagement and Outreach, like Krista was indicating, formerly known as Student, Parent, and Community Support Services, very long. And tonight I'm excited about being here along with Krista Noonan and Tony Lamelli to report on the Parent Ambassador Pilot Program. Expectations. The Parent Ambassador Program will be a program that can provide opportunity regarding the expansion of Modesto City Schools parent outreach. Parent ambassadors will network with parents at their assigned sites by assisting with answering questions, helping parents connect to various internal and external related information and resources, and which will contribute to the efforts of our Welcoming Schools environment. They will also share information for school-related programs, events, and activities, as well as assist with parent recruitment and encourage parents to participate in all the great things that are going on at our schools and district-wide, and to assist with the coordination and implementation of parent trainings and events. Overall, increasing parent involvement and ultimately contributing positively to student success. Next slide. A Parent Ambassador Work Week. We would like to share examples of what a week in the life of a parent ambassador might look like. Average hours per week, 15. So looking at the elementary slide right now, they could be promoting after-school programs, EL parent advisory meetings, second cup of coffees, any upcoming events, and or reaching out to new families just joining Modesto City Schools. And you can see there are 3 sites here working throughout the week. Next slide. Junior high would look like they would be able to assist with open house, sharing information regarding Makeup Picture Day, or promoting the after-school program. And you can see here we have 2 sites in the whole work week as well. Next slide. High school, they could be sharing tutoring or homework help information with parents for students in need, calling parents to remind them of upcoming meetings and events, and or reaching out to new families. There are 3 sites up here, but more than likely, once it's launched, they will probably only be 2 sites, 1 ambassador per 2 sites for high school. As we all know, various things are happening at different times throughout the year depending on that site. As you can see by the examples, the parent ambassador would support various meetings, events, and activities at the site or even district-wide by making home phone calls, handing out related information, answering related questions, and assist with promoting and recruiting parents for these various meetings, events, and activities. They would also attend meetings if available. In addition, they would be the welcome wagon per se for new families and making a positive connection to see how they can be of service and other related parent interactions as deemed appropriate. Next slide, please. Parent Ambassador Training, Supervision, and Support. Parent ambassadors will receive an initial 12 hours of training with HR, parent engagement, and outreach. They're assigned schools and other internal departments on various topics and backgrounds. If available, they will also attend school and district-wide events to have a fuller understanding of what is available or what information is being shared at the site and or at district. The program will be led by a classified manager overseeing the parent ambassadors and the implementation of said program. There will also be ongoing guidance and support provided through parent engagement and outreach and collaboration with site administrators where parent ambassadors are assigned. Next slide, please. Parent Ambassador Program, Potential Challenges, Solutions. Some of the challenges when it comes to parent engagement are not new. Sometimes there is no interest in getting involved. It could also be the lack of awareness of services available internally or externally within Modesto City Schools and the community. And sometimes it could be the lack of time due to busy work schedules and the like. It can be numerous reasons why parents are not involved. However, there are solutions to the breakdown of some of those barriers, such as we can meet parents where they are. Even when we are 100% in person, We will continue to have options for our parents to join meetings online, giving parents more opportunity to participate. We can reach out to parents in a neighborhood-focused strategy to build trust, like Krista was mentioning earlier, to provide a platform in allowing testimonials from parents and students witnessing to the importance of parent involvement based on their experiences, and to ensure meaningful information that is ultimately important for our parents. By implementing this program, the message will be clear. And the most important message we can relay is how important parents are to us, and that they are not just a parent here at Modesto City Schools, but they are part of this family. That we value them and we need them, and know that they make a difference when it comes to the success of their children. Next slide, please. Input from site principal perspective. We will now hear from a former site administrator on the value of a parent ambassador program. Former principal of Tuolumne Elementary, Mr. Tony Lomeli. I'll take my stuff here.
Good evening, President West, board members, Dr. Noguchi, and cabinet. I'm here to speak not only in my new position, but also as a former principal at Tuolumne Elementary, and I'm very excited about the news of going forward with the Parent Ambassador Program. The idea of having the opportunity to work in the area that I am currently in, which is re-engagement and doing the equity work that we're doing for our students, and being able to carry that over to our parents. And that's really what this is creating that alignment. And as a vision from a principal's perspective, I look at the opportunities of looking at some of the great things that we're doing at our sites, and having the opportunity for a parent ambassador to come in and align a neighborhood, so that we're doing those things across different schools and working together. And then as we grow and expand from one parent ambassador to 2 or 3 to be site specific, those things are not happening in pockets anymore. They're aligned across the district. So that's one component that I'm very excited about. Secondly, with the growth that the Medes department has done with virtual and in person, it gives us a great opportunity to, again, to use our resources across schools, and having a parent ambassador type person that can help align those resources so that we can support schools and not have things just happen at one school, but again, have things happen at multiple schools. Thirdly, is a community building piece. Is there are needs in certain areas of our communities, and a lot of times the needs of one school again correlates to other needs, along with our partnerships with local businesses. Having a parent ambassador that checks in with principals and works with them and helps align and make those connections, not only with our parents that work within those communities, but the local business owners and stuff like that as well. So those are some of the components that I look at as a vision. If I was still at Tuolumne or now working within certain programs that I'm overseeing, like summer programming and after school programming, our ability to support the parent ambassadors to get more parents involved in stuff that happens in the nighttime and after school, along with what's happening during the school day. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Lomeli. And Mr. Lomeli was really instrumental as Ms. Herrera and I were putting this together, as well as Mr. Herbst, just in terms of being able to align that site administrator perspective. And then we also spoke with other site administrators as well in terms of understanding, would this be a useful program for them? And there was definitely support there. So just to real quickly, I've mentioned a lot of this already, but again, just to give you a recap of some of the outcomes, it's about building that trust and helping parents to understand the value that Modesto City Schools has for them. Ultimately, it's to increase the marketing, ultimately it's to benefit student achievement, but to do that would also establish Modesto City Schools as a destination district. And I think that that's a tremendous value for this program. And then we just put a sample of the metrics there. So the baseline data that you're seeing that we're basing it off of is over this past year, Mady and her team have reached 10,574 parent engagements since as of May 2021. So our initial baseline goal, because again, this is a new program, so we are trying to look at, okay, what we really are goal oriented, and we want to be able to have a stretch goal. So what we're looking at doing is taking that 10,574 number and increasing that by 20% over the next year between both the parent ambassadors as well as Mady and her team's work with parent engagement and outreach as well. I also wanted to take a few minutes just to show you a few other examples of additional parent engagement activities that we're doing. And I know Trustee Mohia is participating virtually, but he's definitely been a strong proponent and participant in our PK, which is Parent Institute of Quality Education, over this past year. So this past year, we've had 4 PK courses that we've hosted. They were all done virtually. And this next year, we're actually going to be doubling it to 8 courses. These are all Spanish language courses. And as you can see the topics, we have topics at the elementary level, junior high, high school. I'm super excited about. This is a new program that they have on civic engagement, which I think directly correlates with the seal of civic engagement that the board recently adopted. And the other components that they've added, so for all grade levels, we'll be doing courses on social emotional wellness for the parents, and it's really to help them with their own social emotional wellness, but also how to recognize social emotional wellness and encourage that in their children as well. And another piece that I'm super excited about is they also have a STEM. As you can remember, it's science, technology, engineering, and math. So they have a STEM overview course, and we're actually going to be targeting that, again, that's new, for Tuolumne and Beard Elementary, because that's for the elementary school level that they have that. The next thing that we're also doing is Fresno State has what's called the Parent University. We've engaged with them previously on a very basic kind of computer skills course that they've conducted. But this time we're actually going to be taking it in a little bit of a different direction. The Fresno State courses are actually conducted both in English and in Spanish. We're going to be doing a course on social emotional wellness. Again, you heard that with PK, but again, that was only Spanish language. So this is actually going to be helpful for our English speakers as well. And that's going to be offered 2 times over this next school year. And then I'm super excited about this because I think that this is a great foundation to offer people. But they also offer a financial literacy course, which it kind of provides the overview of basic budgeting, but it also shows parents how they can easily save, even starting early, to save for their child's future and their future college education, which I think is a great way to illustrate that roadmap for success, as well as the different savings and lending programs that are out there as well to assist families. And again, we would be offering that course 2 times over the next school year in English and Spanish. So the next steps, as I mentioned earlier, this is just an overview report only, and I know we took a little bit longer, but I thought it was important to paint the picture and to show the foundation of what we are looking at building. And as I mentioned, the funding for the first year costs of the Parent Ambassador program, they were approved in the May 10th meeting as part of the Assembly Bill 86 funds. And just so the board is aware, this is not a one and done presentation. So we are definitely going to be coming back to you to provide updates, because we know parent engagement is a huge priority for not only the board but also the district. So any future funding requests will be brought to the board for consideration, and that will also reflect updates and data metrics on the Parent Ambassador program progress and success. So we are happy to entertain any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you so much for that report.
Thank you.
Trustee Maestas was first on the draw, then Trustee Irvin,
You're
and
going to
then...
take public
Oh,
comments?
I'm so sorry. Lights went up. Ms. Noonan, do we have any comments from the public to read on this item via email or phone?
No, we do not.
And Ms. Chambers, do we have comments from the public here on this item? Okay, so now the board members. So we'll start with Trustee Maestas and then Trustee Irvin.
Thank you for that report. I have a couple of questions, a couple clarifying questions. I'm reading here on, I don't know which slide this is, maybe slide 4, where you talk about the implementation timeline. Parent ambassadors will share sites so that all sites are covered. So just can you clarify for me, and this is my first of really just two questions. When the first year here it says seven hires for elementary, does that mean you'll have like one parent will cover 3 elementary schools so that all elementary schools are covered, but one parent is doing those 3? Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So then my second question is, you have 4 doing high schools. High schools are pretty spread out. Could a parent do like an elementary and a high school? Can they double up that way since they would be in the same neighborhood for that?
You know, I think that's a really valuable question that you're asking, and I think that's the beauty of having the parent ambassador coordinator as well, because I do see that nexus, because we do have a lot of parents who have multi-grade level children. So you may have, yes, so you may have a parent who has a child in elementary, junior high, and high school all at the same time, and that's definitely a goal. We have 4 at the high school because simply the high schools are so large, the student body, and just the amount of outreach that may be required. But I definitely see, and Mady, you can feel free to add if you'd like, but I definitely see that connection between all of the parent ambassadors, where if someone is, say, assigned to Enoch's high school, but there's something that's happening, say, at Fremont Elementary, and actually I can't remember if that's a feeder school for Enoch's, but you know what I'm saying, if there's a nexus there that they can establish and to grow from, that's where the parent ambassador coordinator will be helping them make those connections as well.
Great. Okay, one last question. How will this program affect or work with already established PTA groups that are, some schools have pretty robust PTA groups?
Yes.
How will they work with that to work together, I guess?
I see it as being a great collaboration. It's definitely going to be a relationship building process, and I think a lot of the school sites already have those relationships, because you're so right. I mean, we don't want to take the place of any of that. We want to supplement and to be able to help even further. And I really don't think anyone would decline help, especially when that we can build more connections. So the goal is to be able to further supplement their efforts. But again, that'll take relationship building and talking with the parent groups and talking with the school sites and ensuring all the connections of the relationships that exist.
Trustee Irvin?
Yes, I have questions as well, and actually had a few. And Trustee, I asked this, just had the other one answer about the partnerships with the other parent groups on campuses. But also, I wanted to point out on one of those things that prevent parents from getting involved, and which I didn't see there, was also a lack of trust as well in the school systems. Parents have. As well, especially African American parents. How will the effectiveness or lack thereof of the parent ambassador program be measured? What processes will be implemented to ensure the effectiveness of the program, and that we're monitoring its effectiveness and
Sure.
things of that nature?
Sure. Mady?
As of right now, our department has a database where we're able to track participation by our parents. With this new program, we'll be creating a new database specifically to be able to measure. And we have not created those questions yet because we also create surveys. But the database itself will assist not just with the participation, but also what parents are walking away with when it comes to this program.
So it was engagement be measured as well as like the courses,
Definitely.
The tracking of them in the courses and the completion of the courses and things like that.
Yes.
Okay. Other question, will there be an effort to reach out to a diverse group of parents to become part of the parent ambassador program in terms of diversity and
Most
things of that
definitely.
Okay. And then also, could it be part of that program to maybe at the high school level have parent ambassadors engage with parents of students who are having attendance issues, dropout, students who have dropped out, having those ambassadors make contact with those parents as well as to be sort of a support to the
Child welfare and
attendance liaison.
Yes.
Definitely. It would be a collaboration, of course, like Krista was saying. We're not going to cross boundaries, if you will, but definitely in collaboration, working with the school site and other staff. It will be very important for the partnership for the parent ambassador.
Yeah, I think it's a lot
Right.
of.
Well, I think it'd be as part of that expansion because now that gives another tool for, especially targeting those students who are truant and things like that to reach out as parents where beforehand it couldn't, handle that workload of contacting all of those parents that need
Most
to be
definitely.
contacted. I was
Yes.
just-
Thank you
Well,
so
and
much.
Trustee Irvin, the other thing to think about too is that perhaps the principals are doing that right now and trying to engage their parents. And so perhaps the parent ambassadors would be able to help take some of that off the principal's plate by providing that additional resource, which would then give the principals that additional time to be able to establish those relationships and build those relationships with the children who need those types of supports.
Okay. And also, you got SARB. I don't know if you still do SARB in the district. Just look, I know this has been thought through, but I just wanted to, make sure that engagement as well as could be a part of that process as well. Looking forward to, seeing what it has to offer, and, it definitely is a positive for the district to be able to expand that network of parents, and especially if they're from the communities that will be serving, in those areas. So that makes it even more enticing and for easier engagement of those parents with somebody they're already comfortable with. in those
Exactly.
areas.
Yes.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Good, thank
Thanks
you.
for the report. Thank you.
Vice President Lopez?
Does anyone that's left have a question? I have a comment. So I'll defer to Trustee Brown, and then you guys can come back to me.
So first, let me just thank you, Mady, and your team for all of the progress that we've seen with parent engagement through the pandemic crisis. And we, as a board, are excited, and we've seen the results in many presentations of how many more parents have been involved, and that's exciting.
Thank
And
you. Thank you for your
we-
acknowledgement. We appreciate
We
it.
want to see this program enhance that and allow it to succeed more. So my question is regarding the language capability of these parent ambassadors. Do we foresee that we will have multilingual individuals in each of the positions?
We will definitely be looking at the person as far as more than likely bilingual. But to cover all areas, we don't want to exclude anyone that, for the mere fact that don't speak two languages, that they would be available to work as a parent ambassador as well.
So I know from my perspective, I want to make sure that we're reaching those parents who feel left out because of language. And
Definitely.
hoping that can give them that ability to grow in trust of the district. Thank you.
Vice President Lopez, did you want to go, or do you want Trustee Marks to go first? Trustee Marks?
I appreciate that we're looking at this, and because I've had a lot of questions from others in the public wanting to try to help other students and trying to figure out how best to do that. So I had a couple of questions. One is, how are the parents chosen, or how are the ambassadors chosen? And then secondly, do they have to have a child in the district? Can they be a grandparent? Can they be a community member? How does that work?
We, sure, yes. We will be going through, we'll be posting an announcement for the recruitment of the parent ambassadors. And in terms of having a child in the district, I don't see that as being a requirement at this point because I used an example, say there's a part-time employee who has really great relationships at their given school, but say that they would like to perhaps apply because they have such a passion for the school and for the neighborhood. But, like you said, maybe they don't have a child in the district, or maybe their children have already graduated and moved on. I don't see that as being something to exclude them from the process. Because again, it's all about relationships and building that trust. And I think when someone's passionate about something, that comes through. So yes, so it will be a posting that we will put out there for both the parent ambassadors as well as for the program coordinator.
Oh, thank you. That's great. Thank you for those answers.
Sure.
Vice President Lopez?
Well, I'm very excited about this program. I think it was maybe my second year at CSBA that I sat down at the presentation of parent ambassadors out in Moreno Valley Unified School District. The following year, I went back to that presentation with Superintendent Noguchi, and I forget who else was with us. I really, really, really think that this is going to be monumental for our families, not only in our district, but in the community. I think one of the things that I'm talking about is like a lot of times there's a lot on the plate of principals. And I know with Mr. Lomeli here, like they would love to be out in the community every chance they get, right? But that's a lot of times, duty calls and they have to be other places. And I think that having a parent ambassador, having an extra bridge to the community, to our parents, is going to be vital to what we want to do, right? We want to be a destination district, but we also want to be a destination community hub, right? Where there's growth for our parents, for our students, for our community members. When we talk about PTAs, it's like sometimes there's a lot of moving pieces that are in silos. I see this person or these people being bridges not only with to our community, but within the many sectors of our school, right? And hopefully that not only this will grow, as we can see that we're hoping to, but that investment grows in, possibly later on we're talking about a full-time position, right? Or that these parents are growing, that our other parents are growing, that maybe don't have the time to maybe apply to be a parent ambassador, but they want to be more involved, and now they have a liaison that can help them guide through that. So I'm very excited to see what comes of it, and the other part that I really like is that we're also developing leaders in our community, right? We're taking these steps, and we're not saying like, hey, you're just gonna help us out, but we're gonna invest in you, and we're gonna invest in professional development. We're gonna teach you new tools, so that hopefully in the future, maybe this is a stepping stone to something bigger in their community, right? And that's what we want to do. We want to help out our students achieve, but at the same time, develop professionals in our community in different manners. And I'm very excited that this will be one of them. So I don't have questions because I'm really excited to see this come to fruition.
Thank you.
See no more lights. Mady, you're a rock star. Every time I hear what great things are going on in our district with our parents, your name is always right there, front and center. And I appreciate so much what you're doing with our parents because, we talk about the different pieces of this puzzle. The students, obviously, that's our focus. That's our number one priority. But we couldn't do that without our teachers. And we couldn't do that without our parents. It takes everyone working together. And so thank you so much for doing this. I think this is huge that we're going to have, like Vice President Lopez said, our community members building leaders and giving them the skills. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Just a couple of comments. I love the fact that you're starting your access to higher education and universities at the junior high school level. So many times we wait until high school. It's a little late sometimes. We want to start those kids early, thinking about what their future could hold. And so I love that. And then one of the things that you talked about as a challenge, I know when I worked with parent groups, the challenges of trying to get the parents involved, childcare often came up where parents didn't attend because of childcare issues. So I love the fact that we're doing Zoom meetings so that they can attend. Do we have any other thoughts on how we can help with maybe childcare for parents who want to attend things but can't? Is that an issue that you guys have thought about?
Well, if we were 100% ground in person prior to COVID, we were everywhere we went, to every school site, we always provided childcare for our parents. So it made it easier for our parents to attend. We wanted to break down any barriers that would prevent them from attending. So once we go back, once again, we'll be able to continue. If parents decide to go in person, we will continue to provide those services for our parents as well.
That's awesome. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank
you for your acknowledgement. I really do appreciate you.
Well, we appreciate you. Thank you. And thank you for a wonderful report, both of you, all three of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that was a report only. So moving on to item B2 is another report, and this is on our summer feeds. And so we would like to hear the report, and I believe Chris Atwell is our lead on this one.
Good evening, President West, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Noguchi, and Cabinet. My name is Chris Atwell. I'm the Senior Director of Nutrition Services. This evening, I'll be presenting to you an update on the Modesto City Schools Summer Meal Program. The update will include relevant summer meal program waivers that allow us to provide curbside service to families, outline the need for summer meals, summarize what we here at Modesto City Schools are offering to provide nutrition support, list meal locations, and provide necessary information for our families and the community. The summer meal program connects directly to our district goals. District Goal 3 is to provide a safe, welcoming, and respectful learning environment for every member of the school community while ensuring effective district-wide communication for students, staff, families, and community partners. Specifically, we are focusing on Strategy 3.4, which is to improve customer service for students, families, staff, and community to support welcoming school environments. In accordance with the district goal and specific strategy, we at Nutrition Services focus on supporting school environments through meals. Nutrition support in the form of meals for our young scholars is vital in creating an environment where students can learn. For students attending programs in person, daily meals are available at each site. Nutrition support is provided at over 30 locations for various programs such as summer school, enrichment programs, early childhood education programs, and also after-school programs. For other students and children in the community who may not be attending in-person programs, we're also offering a weekly meal pickup for anyone 18 and under through the summer. In an effort to support access to nutritious meals while minimizing potential COVID-19, USDA has extended a waiver allowing us to serve meals in a curbside pickup model. The United States Department of Agriculture also issued a waiver allowing meals to be served weekly instead of daily to reduce the burden for families traveling to meal pickup locations. Together, these waivers help ensure nutritious meals are provided through contactless weekly meal distribution. Meals include an assortment of breakfast and lunch. This also includes fresh produce like nectarines and student favorites like tamales and orange chicken. For many families, school meals are a necessity. Food security and nutrition are still important even when school is not in session. To continue providing nutrition support in our community, we're serving meals at 16 locations across the district throughout the summer. During the summer, while many children are at home, many do not have access to meals that they would traditionally have during a school year. When school is closed for the summer, it's much harder to reach children with the food that they need. The pandemic has dramatically highlighted the need for meals that reach children outside of school. Summer is statistically the hungriest time of year for many children. According to the No Kid Hungry report, 1 in 6 kids may face hunger this year. Across the country, this equates to as many as 13 million children. Free meals are important in so many ways because nutrition directly impacts the health and student outcomes. This past school year, Modesto City Schools Nutrition Services has provided over 5 million meals and snacks to not only our students, but also to the community. This is why continued nutrition support over the summer is essential. At Modesto City Schools, we're providing weekly meal pickups for children in the community. This allows us to provide nutrition support for our students and also for their siblings who may not yet be of school age. Meals include breakfast and lunch for the week and are available for pickup on Wednesdays between 10:15 and 11:15. Meals can be picked up at any of our 16 locations. For their convenience, families, regardless of the school they attend, can come to any of the 16 locations. So for example, if you're a family that lives near Bret Harte but happen to be out by Johansson, you can pick up the meals at Johansson instead. So that's one of the benefits of the current program, that you can pick up the meals at any of these 16 locations. Over the past few months, over 2,000 families have participated in this program weekly. For families and other community members that are interested in information about the program, all the meal times are and locations are available on the district website at mcsforkids.com. Details about how to participate in the program are also listed there. And if any updates arise, the district website will be updated promptly. If families have any questions, they can feel free to call the Nutrition Services Department for more information as well. As we prepare for the upcoming school year, we're still awaiting clarification from USDA regarding meal program waivers that may be in place for the upcoming year and for next summer as well. So we look forward to continuing to provide weekly meals for our MCS families and community for the remainder of the summer. And we look forward to providing meals to our students when school starts in the fall as well. This concludes my presentation, and at this time I can answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much. We will ask Ms. Chamber if we have any comments from the public on this item. Thank you. Ms. Noonan, do we have any comments via email or phone messages?
No, we do not.
Thank you. So any questions or comments from members of the board? We will start with Trustee Brown.
Yes, thank you for this presentation and your focus on the needs of our families and our students. I know that some of the items that you mentioned in the weekly meals sounded like they need preparation. And I know that we need to be sympathetic to some households where refrigeration won't be possible and where cooking will not be possible. Are there options for those households, and how do we address their needs?
So one of the questions we received early in the pandemic about these meals, these are heat and serve meals, so you can put them in a microwave. They're already have been cooked, so they're rethermed. We also do offer some shelf-stable packs as well. Our security department delivers to close to 50 to 60 families during the curbside pickup. So if anybody needs special accommodations, we provide that. We did have that early in the year with a family that needed meals because they weren't able to cook them. They, at the time, were staying in a local motel, so we provided meals for them. So absolutely, if the requests come in, and they do with 50 deliveries, we adjust to every individual need to get those meals out.
Trustee Maestas?
Thank you. I got a chance to be with family over the last weekend that I haven't seen in a long time, celebrate my grandmother's passing. And we had family come from different states. And I talked about our food program in Modesto City. And they were surprised because that doesn't happen where they're from, and I just cannot say how much that you and your department provide for our community. Years ago, I was teaching at a school, and I had a student that would come into my classroom to get cup of noodles because that was the only meal she would have in that day. And there are a lot of families that this is the only food that they'll get. And the impact is so great. And I can't say enough how much I appreciate all of what you do, especially in the summer for our families and our kids. I chuckled when you said the favorites are tamales and orange chicken, because those are the exact favorites that my kids have of the child, tamales and orange chicken. They love that. I really, really do hope that we can continue this as we look at funding for as you said, for the next steps, because I think it's just a huge impact. And without a doubt, I think that Modesto City Schools food program has been a huge help to our community over the last year during COVID, and providing for the food insecurity that we've had. So I want to thank you for all of the hard work that they, that you've got people out there hours out waiting for the cars to come by, and they just did a phenomenal job. So thank you so much. I do have one question. I know that there's only one pickup time, and it's between 10:15 and 11:15. Is there any consideration about an additional pickup time? You mentioned that you did provide for a certain family if those came up. So just, families that can't get out between that 1 hour because they've got parents working or whatever the situation might be. Is there any accommodations for those families?
Sure. I can tell you that not one time in the pandemic have we turned a family down. So we have taken the meals out to a site. They've come to the nutrition center, but anybody that calls and we routinely have families that will call and say they missed the pickup window. Can they go to the school and pick up the meals? We always we build up a par and we keep extra inventory on hand. So we've never said that to anyone that you can't get the meal. So if you come in at 2:00, no matter what time you come in. On Wednesdays now with summer school, we had to have the time between 10:15 and 11:15 because not only are we providing the curbside, we're providing over 100 different programs in the summer school arena. So together there's about 120 different programs that we have to keep track of. So if they can't make that time, we absolutely will make accommodations.
Vice President Lopez?
I just want to echo what Trustee Maestas was talking about. I appreciate the work that you and all your staff have done. It's a vital service that we're providing to our children. I remember last year when the pandemic started and we were out there, we were out there wanting to help, and we got to help, but your team was on the go, and they were ready to go, and they had everything down to a T. So it was very nice to see them, feed our community, feed our children. But just the effort that they put in, that you all put in, is impressive. I have nothing to say but appreciation. And the one thing I was gonna say, had there been considerations around, I know, adding more locations, or adding maybe parks that, in some cases, might be closer to schools, or have there been any thought around that, if necessary?
Sure. So we currently provide all of our 16 curbside locations at schools. Like a lot of different food service establishments at this time, we are dealing with having to staff with a lot of people, as you said, our employees that work during the pandemic. They're 10-month employees, and they really need a break. So we have a lot of employees that are off. So we're trying to provide to these 120 programs with somewhat of a little bit of short-staffed, but they're all doing a great job. And again, we would run it out to people's houses, as well as, again, our security staff is delivering to over 50 homes on Wednesday as well. They went as far as back at the beginning of the pandemic, they were leaving the meals on the porches where you potentially had COVID positives inside the house. So they were out every day doing a fabulous job.
Great. Thank you.
Trustee Irvin?
Yes, it's Chris. I would like to also echo the sentiments of my colleagues about the excellent job you and your team have done. Last year, I got a chance to help serve at some of the sites as well, and impressed with the organization of everything out there. Impressed with how the staff handled some of the parents and community members who came and picked up food as well. Very cordial, very professional. So I thoroughly impressed. Like I said, since I've known you, I've always known you to do an excellent job. Back when I was in after school, we had an excellent, always recognized for our after school snack program back then, by the state and the federal government. But so you've kept up the good work, the great work. You say you're short staffed. I'm sure some of us get out there and help, to fill in those holes as well, if need be. Thank you.
I would like to mention briefly that all of the work could not have been done without our staff, who really rose to the challenge. They were essential workers. They stepped up. A lot of families would have went hungry without the great job that the staff performed. I'd also like to give credit to CSEA President Gracie Martin for collaborating with us and really helping us support our students at this time. So I appreciate that.
Trustee Maestas? Do you, okay, your elbow. Trustee Marks?
Yes, thank you. It's always great to see you, Chris, over the years.
Too.
I've been so impressed with your department as you would adapt meals to fit the needs of the students that we had. Their taste palettes, you would try out new recipes to find nutritious meals. And then as the state and federal guidelines changed, you had to meet all those state and federal guidelines and make nutritious meals, and then also make them cost effective, which was extremely difficult. I remember a few years of that. And I mean, when I think about all the crises you've had to go through with all these years, it's always impressed me what you've done and how well you've done to meet the needs of whatever it is that we have to do that year. And so I just thank you. And to think about nutrition department, never got a day off last year, worked through the whole COVID spring, and your team just kept going and met the needs of our families, and thousands, hundreds of thousands of meals last spring that were made for our families. So, and even those who had special needs, and you've already talked about those and how you've met them this year too. So just thank you for your department and for all that you're doing. And I'm glad you're still there and making that department run so smoothly. So thank you, and thank your team for us.
I will. Thank you for the kind words.
Appreciate this report. A couple of years ago, before COVID, the board members at that time had the opportunity to take a field trip on a bus. And one of the places we stopped was the Nutrition Services Department. And I can't speak for anyone else, but it was so impressive the way you organized everything and the way everything ran so smoothly. I can tell that the organization is there from the very start, from the very beginning. And it was the cleanest place I'd ever seen. So kudos to you for doing such a wonderful job. Thank you so much. So if there's no further questions, this was a report. We appreciate it. Thank you. And I would like to move on. I know it's been a little while, but we do have cards, so we have people waiting to speak. So I would like to push through so that we are respectful of people's time. So we're going to move right on to item B3. And this is a discussion of proposal to name the Davis High School basketball court. And this is Mr. Godot.
Okay, thank you, Board President Dr. West, trustees, Superintendent Dr. Noguchi, cabinet, and community members watching both online and here. This evening, I present to you a proposal to name the Grace Davis High School basketball court in honor of former Davis High teacher and coach Dan Pacheco. This proposal aligns with District Goal 3.2, which is promoting outstanding students, families, staff, programs, schools, and community partners. The proposal was brought to Superintendent Dr. Noguchi through former Grace Davis student athlete, graduate, and now current Davis High teacher and athletic director Tim Garcia, who I believe you will hear from after my presentation during the period for public comment on this item. The naming of district facilities provides the board an opportunity to honor individuals who have made significant contributions to Modesto City Schools. A brief background on Coach Pacheco: he was hired at Davis High School in 1995, and during his 20-plus years of service to the district, he was truly an inspiring math teacher, coach, and athletic director. Coach Pacheco's career included 474 wins, making him one of the winningest coaches in Stanislaus District history. His resume includes a number of accomplishments. I'm not going to read you the resume of the accomplishments. It's in the agenda item. But I would say that those resume items are nothing in comparison to the exemplary accomplishments that you may have noted from the 17 letters of support that were attached to this board item from former players, parents, colleagues, and I think they would all say that Coach Pacheco's greatest career achievements lives and breathes in the lives of those colleagues, students, and players that he gave his all to. For a man whose favorite quote remains, "The true test of a man's character is what he does when no one is watching," his players watched and emulated their coach, who is an unassuming legend of the Davis High School basketball court. This evening, the board shall only hear and accept the proposal. I would like to point out that the fiscal impact of this proposal would be limited to the cost of a commemorative plaque for Coach Pacheco. Any additional opportunities to recognize and or honor Coach Pacheco, including any gym floor modifications, are the exclusive responsibility of those recommending this honor. Lastly, the proposal will be brought back at our next board meeting on June 21st. In the interim time between now and June 21st board meeting, we will collect any additional feedback or counter proposals so that the board has a fair opportunity to evaluate this proposal to name the gym floor. So with that, thank you.
Thank you so much. We do have two people waiting to speak on this agenda. I believe Ms. Chambers. Could you please send Lynn Zwollen to speak first?
Oh, there's Sue.
And Sue, hi.
Good evening. It's an honor to address you. My name is Lynn Zwollen. This is my wife, Sue. We have raised 6 children here in Modesto, all attending and graduating from Modesto City Schools. My wife now has a fairly responsible job with the city. And I have been a general dentist in Modesto for 39 years. During that time, I also was a volunteer football coach, first at Davis High School and then more recently at Downey for 30 plus years. Dan Pacheco coached 3 of our sons in basketball at Davis High School. He inspired all of them both in sports and in how to approach challenges in life. As I coached football at Davis during those years and observed Dan with his basketball players, it was most impressive. To say Dan was energetic and demanding is an understatement. His players all said that games were a piece of cake compared to his practices. Dan was always, that's in all caps, high energy, focused, intense, detail-oriented, and communicated constantly with feedback so his players knew exactly what he wanted them to do. He never accepted less than their best effort and had a truly unique way of getting it out of them. Nobody wanted to let him down. Sue and I very much support naming the basketball court at Davis High School in his honor. He is truly a legend in his own time. Thank you. Want to say anything? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's so good to see you.
We actually had another speaker, so we have 2 more. The next speaker is Timmy Garcia.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here tonight. My name is Timmy Garcia. I'm the athletic director, PE teacher, and head football coach at Davis High School. And I'll try not to get too emotional, but this man had a huge impact in my life and continues to do so to this day. I was very fortunate to play basketball for Coach Pacheco at the age of 15 years old and had an outstanding experience at Davis High School. What made Davis so special is the people around us, from the Zawalans to Lanfears to Pachecos, that went above and beyond the job description. It is truly an honor to stand here tonight speaking on behalf of thousands of students and athletes that were positively affected by Coach Pacheco. I was also fortunate to come back in 2012 and teach and coach alongside of him before he retired and see from a different perspective and point of view the impact he had every day. I continue to interact with him weekly and daily as he coaches my children in my front yard at 7:30 in the morning before school or 3:35 after school. He comes to my children's birthday parties and even for Thanksgiving dinner every year. For my playing days, my coaching career, my teaching profession, and just everyday approach as a human being, he has impacted me tremendously. I often walk through the halls at Davis High School or enter the gym and hear his voice echoing right off the walls, the stuff that he used to tell us, whether it was the classroom, the basketball practice, a game, or even on the football field. He instilled in everyone he taught or coached hard work, discipline, commitment, passion, toughness, accountability, teamwork. He gave us all hope. He believed in us when nobody else did, and he made us want to perform daily and never let him down. He loved us even when we didn't deserve it. When I look back on the 21-year career at Davis High School for Coach Pacheco, I truly believe that nobody else played more of an impactful role than he did on our campus when it comes to the whole school population. His willingness to help everyone on and off the court and go above and beyond to take care of everyone, from food to shoes to study hall to camps to practices, rides, you name it, he did it. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, he was available for 21 years on our campus. Things that come to mind when you talk to his old students or players, secretaries, colleagues, or opponents. Lifelong relationships. Life lessons, tough love, mentor, father figure, accountability, integrity, Fair, honest, real, no excuses. Competitive spirit. He was a winner, a leader, a great teacher, a great coach. He had a big heart. He won championships. He was a positive influence in my life. His legacy will live on forever, and now we have an opportunity to leave his last mark, naming the gym floor after him, where he pushed us to the limit. He yelled at us every day. He hugged us, he cried with us, and most importantly, he loved us. Thank you for your time and consideration for this special honor for a very special teacher and coach. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last speaker, Ms. Chambers. Jeff Albritton.
Thank you. Some hard acts to follow there. Board President West, Trustees, Superintendent Noguchi, and Cabinet. I'm Jeff Albritton. I work for Stanislaus County Office of Education, where I'm an assistant superintendent, but I worked in Modesto City Schools for 26 years, 13 of which were at Grace Davis High School. I was hired a year after Dan Pacheco. I saw that skinny little sophomore get called up to the varsity team that just spoke. I remember that day very well. So we're here to talk about Dan Pacheco, though, and the value that he has brought to Davis High School. I read through the letters that were sent to you in your board packet, and I really enjoyed that walk. It was a walk down memory lane reading through those. Get to class was one of the short little notes that you received from some of the support staff that Dan was famous for saying. And it was in small letters, but actually every time I ever heard him say it, it was in capital letters. Get to class! And he'd talk to anybody and everybody with that tone. And another letter that was written by somebody that shared the responsibilities I did a little bit later on, Mike Rich there at Davis High School. He had the same exact experience that I did in the 13 years that I worked there, but it went kind of like this. Whether it was a skinny little freshman or whether it was a 6'6" athlete, it's a college eligible student, the scenario was always the same, and it went like this. Students not happy with math teacher Dan Pacheco on the first day of class. Parent makes contact with the school to set up a parent conference. As administrators, we prepare to kind of mediate and get ready for everything, and we let Dan know that there's a concern from this parent and this student. And then Dan takes care of it. From there, he meets the parent. The parent loves Coach Pacheco and learns the values he wants to instill in every student. Hard work, you've heard these tonight. Curiosity, organization, and get to class. And immediately sees the impact that Dan can have on their son and daughter, and he's got them. And that makes a huge difference. Students stay in class, they find the great success, and Dan just adds to his fan club. Those students loved him. And his legacy grew. This happened every single year that I was there for those 13 years. Dan reveals himself to that family and all of us as a kind, compassionate human that cares for students, all students. He would give literally the clothes off his back to students. I saw it happen. That was kind of him in the classroom, and him as a person. We know that he was a great basketball coach. His success stands for itself. But this opportunity that we have when we do these kinds of things, when we're looking at naming our facilities, they cement in history what we stand for as an organization. We want the Dan Pachecos of the world, to be remembered, because those are the things that we respect. Those are the things that we want all of our students and all of our staff to reflect back, and I think we've done that there with Dan Pacheco. So thank you very much, and also to Tim Garcia, who spearheaded this effort, and that's the perfect example right there of the Dan Pacheco's work. Tim Garcia, thank you.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions or comments from the board at this time? Seeing none, thank you for this presentation, and we look forward to hearing more on June 21st. I would like to go on to B4 at this time, which is a public hearing And this is a public hearing review of draft local control and accountability plan. And so we'll hear the report first, and this is Mr. Hurst.
All right, well, welcome. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to be working on this with a number of people, and today is the first chance to give a public presentation on the LCAP, the 21-24 LCAP plan. Again, I want to thank you, President West and board members, Dr. Noguchi and Cabinet. My name is Steve Hurst. I'm Director of State and Federal Programs, and I've had the pleasure of this. The goal this year for us today is to review this LCAP and the development that went into it, look at how it aligns with all of our current Modesto City Schools strategic goals, to briefly review the LCAP document, and then to look at the next steps that are involved in this process. So the LCAP is a process that begins usually very early in the school year and continues until board approval, which will happen in June of each year typically. This year, to say the least, has been a little bit different than any other year. And the reality is this LCAP has actually been a 2-year process if you look back, because the LCAP was actually suspended for the 2023 process. And so we have taken that information along with what's happened this year to develop the LCAP. We've had a number of stakeholders involved, which I'm going to talk about here in just a minute. And then one of the things we've looked at is, how have people felt about their input, and do they feel valued? And we found that that they definitely feel like that has happened. When you look at our stakeholder engagement, we do have our LCAP Advisory Committee. This committee has met over the last 2 years, and especially in the last 5 months has really been impactful on it. As I said, the 2021 LCAP, which was suspended, really was the 2023 development. So all of that input is part of the process that we took in. We also have input from our DLAC committee. This is required by law, but we definitely would always be reaching out to them. We've had input from cabinet and extended cabinet. We have our teaching and learning meetings that happen on a regular basis in the group which is interdepartmental. So we've had them strategically involved in this process. Different surveys have gone out to our administrators as well as to our parents and students. Dr. Noguchi held a number of community forums this year, and that input from those also was taken into the LCAP development. And working with our labor partners, MTA and CSE, they have definitely had a input on this process as well. So a little background on the LCAP. The LCAP is a 3-year plan. It is a mandate from the state. It is designed to describe really our goals, our actions, and our services, as well as the budget that goes along with that, and how we are making supporting our students to make sure we have positive outcomes with them and address the state and local priorities. And there are actually 8 different state priorities that have to be met as part of your LCAP. Things like your basic services, looking at student engagement, parent involvement, pupil outcomes, all of those areas go together and must be at some point addressed within what you're doing in your LCAP presentation. This year is the first year for the Modesto City Schools strategic goals to be incorporated specifically into our LCAP. And so that's a different setup for this year. In the past, there has always been 3 goals that didn't align to the 5 goals specifically. So you could have had something like facilities, which in the old one was in goal 1. Now facilities falls under goal 4 and specifically 4.3 of the area. So when you look at the Modesto City Schools strategic goals, remembering that these goals were created over the last couple of years through a collaborative effort, then it really does make sense that our LCAP really reflects those goals, because that's the goals for the district as a whole. So the thing to think about is of the LCAP is it really does link everything we're doing together. Over the last few presentations to the board, we've had presentations about AB 86 and the expanded learning opportunity grants, or some of the different funding sources. How are we reinventing our district and using these one-time monies to our benefit? But really, all of those kind of have to go back to the strategic goals. And if our strategic goals is really our LCAP goals, then it really falls back to the LCAP. And so all of these things that we've done come together, and really all the funding sources are working to support the students and making sure that the success of those students is at the key. On May 10th, I believe it was, Dr. Noguchi talked about reinventing our schools, and I took this slide literally out of her presentation, looking at this and saying, hey, this is the things we need to do. This is how we need to help move ourselves along. But when you look at this, in the first one up there says building capacity. Well, building capacity goes right back to goals number 2 and number 5. And so they're related in the LCAP. When you think about a social emotional supports, again, that'll show up in goal 1 of the LCAP. Fiscal stability, goal 4 of the LCAP. So when you look at all of the things that we're talking about reinventing our schools, in some way they will tie back to the LCAP, because really those are our strategic goals and what we're trying to do. And so this really is the focus plan for the district in that sense. As we go through this, I'm going to talk briefly about the different goals. There are 5 goals. Strategic goal number 1 is really focused on that academic achievement, equitable access, and college and career readiness. And within that, then we have obviously the different strategies that are related to that. And so when you look at the strategies there, making sure we have that great for instruction the first time. Are we making sure our students are prepared? A college and career readiness is measured by our indicators. Knowing that we need to focus on our English learners, not only because that's the right thing to do, it is mandated, but it really is the right thing to do. How do we support our students academically, social, emotionally? How do we make sure our students are engaged in our schools and we have lots of enrichment activities? And then also recognize our students with disabilities have to be included in our general education, and that we make sure that they're involved in with that. So when you look at goal 1, and I'm going to highlight some of the actions and steps that are in there. I'm not going to go through them all. There's well over 50 of them that are just in this one goal. Goal 1 is by far our biggest goal in the sense of what we have in it, and it's the most focused on our students, and that's why it's probably the biggest goal that we have. So when you look at that, and I'm going to have like 3 different slides when I highlight this. One of the things you'll look at there is, what are we doing to support curriculum? Making sure we have our curriculum coordinators, making sure we focused on our language arts and math. We have our supports for science, technology, engineering, arts, math. You can call it STEM or STEAM, but recognizing that we need to promote our STEAM and STEM areas. We have PD in there. We know that full day kindergarten and transitional kindergarten has been a boon for our district and has to continue to be a focus, and so obviously it's making sure it's in there. Dual language, those type of things. Some of them are continuations from previous LCAP. There's no doubt about it. They're continued because they're working and they're showing that it's the right thing to do, so we want to make sure we continue those programs. When you look at the next one, one of the big recognitions is we've had a lot of impact due to COVID, and we need to recognize that within our LCAP. And yes, we may have multiple funding sources to help it, but it still needs to be the focus. And so looking at expanding our counselors, making sure that we change the ratios, we give those social emotional supports, mental health supports. Those are going to expand over what we previously have been doing. We've had those in LCAP. We need to expand them, and that was direct feedback that we received. College and career supports, making sure that we're looking at how do we get our students really ready for college and careers, and understanding CTE is important for that. But so are programs like IB and the AP testing, and really supporting the students in those areas. So when you look at there, you'll see IB, AP, preliminary SAT. We've taken on those and trying to really minimize the barriers that some of our students face there. We know we need more administrators at the elementary level, and put that in previously and want to continue that work experience. And one of our newer programs in the last LCAP was bringing in the junior ROTC. We need to look at expanding that because it's a program in its infancy and really is a positive program. Thinking of our English learners, and we have a large number of those in Modesto City Schools, the assessment center, the support that they bring, not only in testing, monitoring, implementing everything, we need to make sure that we have that program really well taken care of, and so focusing on our bilingual students. Remediation, it's hard to say it's learning lost because it was learning never potentially gained. So I don't know if it's loss or just a lack of gain in a sense, but we really need to make sure that our students have those offerings. Thinking about what we're already doing this summer in the sense of remediation and enrichment, but continuing that and making sure we have those supports, credit recovery supports for the high school and junior high, for example, and just basic supports that we need to make sure happen for our students. Expanding summer school, expanding enrichment, making sure we have after school activities that can happen for the students, whether it's in VAPA, visual and performing arts, whether it's in science activities, math activities, different clubs. Thinking of the level sports at the junior high, we've never really had a very organized sports program at the junior high, and it's an opportunity to involve more students. Obviously, recognizing our homeless and foster youth need additional support and continued support, so that stays within it. And outdoor ed's always been a focus of the district, so as of now, the plan is to continue outdoor ed. Looking at what we do with science, that may, become less of the focus in maybe other areas, but again, that's going to be feedback that'll tell us what we want to do and where we need to go. So I think all of these will show up in the goals that you see there in Goal 1. Looking at Goal 2, this really is about high quality professional development. And if we are going to be the destination district, we have to support our people. We have to make sure we're hiring good people. We have to make sure that we are training those people and we're growing our people. And so really, if you look at the focus here, the targeted professional development, early literacy, math, ELD, looking at our leaders in the professional learning communities and really that collaborative effort, making sure we train for that. Thinking about this, Dr. Noguchi had an article that just came out talking about the CIPD department and the importance of that department, and you're going to see that highlighted here. We can't do the things we've been doing without the efforts of curriculum instruction, professional development. And again, recognize the character traits that we have here at Modesto City Schools and really making sure our students learn about those character traits and that we model and bring them to life for us. So when you look at some of the actions and steps, instructional coaches, working with our teachers one-on-one, working with them in trainings, just again, bringing us all further along. I think of all the efforts that were made this last year related to, virtual learning, and that environment could not have happened without those people. Making sure that, again, we continue that CIPD staffing, focus on our cultural competencies. There's been a ton of that comes right out of this part of that. Restorative practices. It's always said there's no handbook for raising a child. Well, you know what? There was never really a handbook for a teacher on how to deal with a lot of these situations. Restorative practices is teaching people skills and knowledge they don't just necessarily always come by, and it definitely impacts what we're doing with our students and keeping them in class and supporting them. So you'll see all of those type of actions under Goal 2. Looking at Strategic Goal 3, this is again, a big area, and if you think about that safe, welcoming environment, respectful learning environment, making sure we're communicating effectively with all of our families, students, staff, everybody. So when you look at this one, things like the Safety Task Force are highlighted there, promoting that communication both ways. Perfect example would be what Mady's doing with the parent ambassadors. Obviously, we just had that presentation. And then looking at our technology really falls under this area. So when you look at the goals that are in this area, the first one's obviously the safe schools. What are we doing to make sure we have a safe school environment? Things like you've seen over the last few years, the cameras coming in, or you've seen the one point of entry. Just addressing those needs that we need to have. The Parent Ambassador Program obviously is the new program. Community aids, making sure we continue with supporting our Roundup. Technology is a big portion in Goal 3. What are we doing to maintain these one-to-one devices that we now have literally given to every student? If you look back to the last LCAP, we were just expanding to junior high and had barely gotten high school going, and now we have, essentially 30,000 students with a one-to-one device. That obviously taxes the infrastructure, it taxes the department. We need to make sure that we provide those supports to our IETS department, make sure that they can do what we need to do. and really working on that whole communication piece, making sure that we work with Krista's department to really work on that two-way communication and what's happening and promoting our district as well so that people know all the great things that are happening. Looking at goal 4, you can't do all these things if you do not have money and good sound fiscal policy, and goal 4 is all about the fiscal policies, making sure we're using our local control funding formula dollars on a regular basis. Those are our ongoing monies we're going to have. But, also how do we incorporate what we just were given with these windfalls, making sure we have involvement from all of our stakeholders, investing in our schools and the ability to do that. And then, we have been a declining enrollment district. We know that. How do we stop that? How do we turn that around? So this one's pretty straightforward, really, in what it does. It talks about fiscal control, looking at, how do we make sure we hit our marks, our quarterly mark, our mid-year mark, our, third quarter mark. What are we doing and what do we have in place? LCAP oversight. If we have an LCAP plan, are we reviewing it? Is it doing what we want it to do? Are we making the mark? And are we spending money in the right places to make those differences? Security to protect assets. We've added a ton of cameras, but we've got to maintain them now. We've got to make sure that they continue to work. Having night patrol to make sure things are good around our sites, and that literally if I'm walking out at 9 o'clock somewhere, there's somebody there to help me if I need somebody to do something like that. And the big one, obviously, is we know we have aging schools, but how do we maintain the facilities? And obviously the bonds have helped a lot with that, but we've got to really continue that plan that maintenance and operations has put together to make sure that we improve our schools and have a good environment. Moving on to our last goal, which is goal 5. This is about people. This is getting the right people in the job. This is making sure we train them. This is how do we know that we're doing the right thing? And so when you think about it, it's that cultural piece. How do we develop that culture, bring the right people in, hire the right people, train them? How do we maintain them and not have them leave us 2 years later and go somewhere else? And how do we know that we're doing that right thing? Looking at how do we make our processes easier to hire people? How do we onboard people? That type of a thing is really what goal 5 is about. So it really is that HR piece mostly. So for this one, there's elements in there related to recruitment and retaining staff, making sure that we do an exit interview and find out why did you leave, so that if it's an issue that we need to fix, we can fix that. Or if it's simply because the next step wasn't available to you, maybe we need to figure out how to make that next step available to you. Looking at our partnerships with our universities, developing not only those partnerships, but also with our training partners, business partners, those type of areas for our people. More job fairs, and some of the HR staff are covered under that. So where we're at right now, obviously, is a public hearing. The plan right now, and it is going to be available. It's currently online on our MCS website. The reader-friendly version is out there. There is a link on the website also in the LCAP section where we can get more public input. That'll be open through Friday, so that by Friday then we close that. Any adjustments we need to make, we can get that done, so that hopefully we can come back to the board on the 21st and seek approval of the LCAP, which would then be implemented starting in July of 2021. It is a 3-year plan with annual reviews and updates that happen within it. And with that is the end of my presentation. I'm available for questions.
Thank you. We are going to close the regular meeting at this time, and we're going to open the public hearing. Ms. Chambers, I believe we have one person who wishes to speak on this item, and that is Melody McGill. You will come to the podium.
Good job, Steve.
Good evening. Thank you so much for pushing through. I know it hasn't been easy sitting for 2 hours plus, so I appreciate it. I'm Melody McGill. I work with Modesto City Schools. I am a science curriculum coordinator, and I'm also a STEM educator at Roosevelt Junior High. Good evening, President West, trustees, Superintendent Noguchi, and the cabinet. I really appreciate this opportunity of speaking with you. I have served on the LCAP Advisory Committee for the last 4 years. And I appreciate all the time that's gone into working on this plan and the draft. As I reviewed the draft, I found myself in a dilemma. I'm very excited about some parts of it, and then there are a couple that I'm really deeply, deeply disappointed in. I have to tell you, I'm really excited to see the focus on CTE Career Tech Ed. I think that that's awesome. It's really nice that the district is recognizing that not all of our students are going to be college bound. And by increasing those CTE pathways and doing that focus there, offering them apprenticeships and internships, we have the ability to have students that are going to leave our schools with great prospects for employment. And I'm really excited to see that. Unfortunately, once again, I'm having a hard time understanding. Our focus in this district is on literacy. And once again, in year 4, we are not returning librarians full-time, certificated librarians full-time back into the junior highs. And I'm having a hard time understanding, if our focus is on literacy, why we're closing our libraries at the junior high for half a year. Our certificated librarians aren't just there to check out books. Students come in, they have research papers that they're supposed to write. Our certificated librarians are there to help them write those papers, to review them, to help them make the corrections, to make sure that they have the correct citation format down for whichever content area they're writing the report for. They provide access to printers for kids that can't print those documents at home. They're printed in the library. They also help identify for students content areas that the students might be interested in reading. They help the students to evaluate valid research resources, so that when the students are doing internet, they're not just pulling the first thing that comes up on Google. They're able to look at that and say, is that a valid research site? Or do I need to look beyond just that first one? They do this, and they do so much more. Not only that, our libraries being open during lunch provides a safety zone for students that are maybe being bullied. Maybe they're feeling isolated. Maybe they're feeling alone. A lot of the libraries at the junior highs have tried to create like social cafe settings where kids can come in and they can sit in the library and they can charge their computer and they can sit. They have games that are going on. Our librarians, our certificated librarians, do all of this for us. Again, if we can't commit to opening our junior high libraries full-time with certificated librarians, which benefits all students, what is that saying about our priorities in this district? Another area that I'm somewhat...
Miss McGill, I'm so sorry. There's a 3-minute time limit, so if you can just finish that one thought.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize there was a time limit because all right. So here's the other part.
We're newly back doing this, so
okay.
It's okay. Just finish that thought, if you will.
All right. So the other part is Project Lead the Way is awesome. However, we have programs already in place at junior highs that are doing great things already, and only focusing in on Project Lead the Way is going to have a challenge to those other programs. Just FYI, our first group of seniors that have gone through the program for 2 years, we have a senior that's graduating that's gone through one of our programs through the STEM program that got into the Webb Institute in New York. And if you know what that is, that's a very exclusive institute. This is an opportunity to continue to support that, and all it takes is one ad in there that says we'll continue to support the programs that are already there, and then the other is science enrichment. But I've used my 3 minutes. I apologize. Thank you guys so much for your time. And again, thank you for the work.
Thank you for staying late to give us your thoughts on this. Ms. Noonan, do we have any comments from the public to read from email or voicemail?
No, we do not.
Don't. Okay. So I would like to open it up to any of our board members if we have comments or questions concerning this. Trustee Marks?
I have a question on the makeup of the advisory committee, this LCAP committee. How many are on it, and then how many are community members, and school board, I mean, not school board, but school district employees? And are there any students on it?
Yes, the answer is yes to all.
Okay, good.
So the current committee that we used this year was a rollover of the committee that had been started for the 2021 year. Of that, we reached out. So that committee is approximately 30 individuals in total, of which there is representation from parent, there's also community members, students, and then there is representation of MCS employees. We also have a representative from both of our bargaining units that participate on that. So the makeup has changed over the years. One of the feedbacks this year at our first meeting was they'd like to see even more students participate in it. So we did reach out to solicit more student input. We got, I think, 3 more members that were added, student members at this point. And what we try to do is balance that, obviously, between elementary, junior high, high school, so that we're representing all parties. Parents, we want to make sure that hopefully they have a representation of our populations, as well as our target populations that give us some of our funding. So think about your special ed or your homeless or foster or something like that, or English learners. We'll try to have that. This year, if they did, when we reached out, if they did not wish to continue, there was a list of people who had, at the previous one, had indicated their interest, applied for the position. That's the list we went to then to find replacement members for.
Okay, that's good. And are there any members of the public that are from the business community or?
Yeah, we had, so for example, we had from the NAACP, we had a member from there. We had a representative from Gallo. We had a representative from, David Collins is, I think he's the Center for Human Services, actually. I mean, it's interesting. Our committee makeup is a process committee. The state actually just says you need a parent committee. It doesn't give you a breakdown on what that committee has to be, other than having the representative of the parents that, for example, your English learners or that.
Okay, that's helpful. Just because this committee makes a lot of suggestions and plans for how we spend almost $400 million. So, and then I didn't see how the funding of it was broken down and how the funding would work. I know that's been a question numerous times from the public. I didn't know what the requirements are for that, because the funding was.
Yeah, so the reader friendly obviously is the overview. You're going to have the next presentation is going to be the budget overview, which links directly to the LCAP. So they're both being presented at the same meeting. So I'm not going to talk to the numbers. I'm not the best with the numbers. I'll leave that to Mr. Zierli and his staff. When we bring back the final version, you'll have the reader friendly as well as the CDE template, which has all the numbers and everything in that he's going to be talking about tonight.
Okay, perfect. Because this one, when I read it, it was reader friendly. We'll call
Correct.
it that. That's what it said at the top. I was like, okay, that's cool. And then, and it is really easy to read, and I really appreciated that. So, but I was just like, oh yeah, the public's always asking how, the funding, because it's important how we're spending their tax dollars.
The CDE, when you get that, it'll probably be 150 to 200 page document.
Right.
With everything.
I know it's really complicated and it has a lot. And I remember when we had the placemats, we used to do the placemats, and it would have it all, but it had some of the funding on there, just not as much. So that's good. Well, thank you.
Sure.
So Trustee Marks, I want to add something to a comment. So while yes, this committee is to some degree making decisions, the information that this committee is being provided from multiple community forums. We have key communicators, which have many members from the business community. In fact, Suze Wallen's on that. I mean, we've got 20 people from our stakeholders that also inform the LCAP. So while the LCAP may be sitting in a meeting or on Teams for this year, they're provided with a lot of input and feedback from the community. It isn't just the people in the room. It's really my listening and learning. I ask constantly what's working, what's not working, and how can we adjust. And actually from you all, you give me feedback, parent ambassadors, the things that you share that needs to be added into the system. That goes into the LCAP too, because that's our supplemental concentration dollars. So while you saw some identified actions and services, really what we've been talking about this last 4 months, as far as the expansion of all this work, is really coming to a large degree also out of supplemental concentration, and that's what will support it moving forward also once the ESSER dollars are out. So I just didn't want you to get the impression that it's just the members in the room making decisions over 4 million. It's actually quite a few individuals. So
Yes.
hopefully that clarifies.
That does, it does, it helps. And I know it's changed over the years from what we used to do with pockets of money or buckets of money, and then all, categorized and categoricals, and then changed to open, and then it went to the LCAP. So it's been helpful. So I think sometimes I feel like, I don't know who's on this committee, and they're bringing these things forward. So how, and then we're making a decision on it at our next meeting. So I appreciate the fact that we get 2 meetings to actually process this information, talk about it, have any other questions between meetings, and then be able to find out, more information about, just how that process works with the committees that you already have in place, and then how that all merges together. So thank you for that.
Trustee Brown?
Yes, Mr. Hurst, I appreciate the presentation. Appreciate the fact that the focus is now better aligned with our strategic goals. You did mention facilities and how that discussion ties in. We've got a lot of positive focus in the district with facilities, with our bond money, with the improvements we're making at our other campuses as well, and a lot of influx of federal funds that's allowing us to do some additional things at our facilities. Was there anything that came up from the LCAP committee that is suggesting we do anything different with our facility funding?
Not in the sense of going away from the plan that's been put in place to really, as we improve. The one thing that did come up, but I believe has been addressed potentially through ESSER, if I'm not mistaken, was some shade structures for the elementary sites for when the students are outside, especially trying to get them outside more. And I know that was something that was being looked at with the ESSER money, because it's kind of a one-time, one-off situation. It made a lot of sense for that because it also supported the whole reaction to the COVID situation, so that aligned better there than maybe part of a specific action in the LCAP plan, but it was brought up, that was passed on as part of the process. The thing that really is this, are we doing the things that we say we're going to do to continue moving ourselves forward and using our funding sources effectively? And that was the big piece as far as facilities that I would say that I would bring back.
I want to add just one more comment as we look for alignment, and that alignment and focus, and that's something that's been a priority for me since I was hired here 3 years ago. And it was actually an interview question: how can we get alignment and focus? So you'll see that we've got our strategic goals now aligned to LCAP instead of having these two separate entities. But this is the last year of our strategic goals, because the strategic goals were just 3 year. So I don't know if you caught that or not, but there's some strategic goals that we've finished. The safety task force, I have a note, let's get an update on that. But we now have the work around the equity task force. So as we go through a process this year to update our strategic goals, I would say 90% of them will be the same, but we will interface some of our new stuff around the equity task force and that work. That'll probably take the spaces where the safety task force was. So again, just trying to keep that alignment and consistency as we go through the years, because we know if we really want to make marked improvement, then we need to stick with those strategies for a number of years for it to actually make an impact. So I just wanted to add that the equity work that we did will become more alive in this year as we revise.
Awesome. So seeing no more lights, we are going to close the public hearing and return to our open regular meeting. And this is not something we're voting on because that will happen the next meeting. So I am going to suggest that we take a 10-minute break at this point, and we'll return in 10 minutes. So if we can set a timer, thank you very much.
Reprieve.
Welcome back. We are now going to go into another public hearing. So we will close the regular board meeting and go into an open public hearing. And at this point, we would like to hear from Mr. Zierli, the review of draft 2021-2022 budget for all funds.
Thank you. Good evening, President West, trustees. We are here to present to the board the draft proposed budget for 21-22. I just need to begin by recognizing our Senior Director of Financial Services, Michelle Price, who is not here physically. She's virtually with us for her efforts in creating the proposed budget, which is in front of you tonight. The purpose of the presentation is listed as bullet points on this slide, but really is trying to summarize the 114-page document that is attached to the agenda. And especially for our two new board members, it seems like it's a large sum of information and data. So this presentation is our best effort to try to summarize it, highlight what's in the proposed budget for your approval on June 21st. We begin with the current year estimated actuals, which is the 2021 year, as that's the starting point for our budget adoption, because it's our last estimate for the year, and it creates our estimated beginning balance, or any balance for the current year, which becomes our estimated beginning balance for the budget year 21-22. Although we were hybrid for the majority of the current year, we're still projecting a deficit in unrestricted resources. Some of you may see this and want to know why do we have a deficit? Why are we projecting a deficit? The statutory COLA for local control funding formula revenue in the current year is 2.31. So we should have received a 2.31 increase to our revenue. In reality, we received zero. Due to, at the time the current year budget was adopted, the state deferred the statutory COLA to our local control funding formula. So we received zero increases to our revenue this year, but we've seen increases to our operating expenses. Normal employee step and column cost increases are covered in the budget in our estimated actuals, as well as current year STRS and PERS pension cost increases, negotiated benefits for health benefit increases for all of our employees that went into effect this year, and negotiated compensation increases for the CSEA bargaining unit, all in a year in which we received zero increase to our revenue from the state of California. I just wanted to put this in here for our new board members, but also to kind of remind people what our budget reporting cycle looks like. It is a July through June budget cycle, and it begins in January with the release of the governor's budget proposal for estimated revenues, and then it is updated with the May revision once the state has a better understanding of tax estimate collections for the year. The state budget must be enacted by June 15th. Ours needs to be adopted by June 30th, and we will submit a 45-day revision if substantial revisions are made to the current revenue assumptions that we're going to share with you in an upcoming slide. So you can see where we're at. We're in June. By the end of June, we will have asked the board to adopt a budget, and then you can see the succeeding months from there on what to expect as a board member. Our budget process aligns to Strategic Goal 4. You just heard that by Steve Hurst in the LCAP presentation. And our budget is a policy document that supports some of the great things you've already heard this evening. You've heard about parent ambassadors. You've heard about nutrition services. You've heard about the LCAP. And it's also, I want to go back to something Steve Hurst said. I just wrote it down here real quick. Funding sources are working to support our students. He said that in his last presentation. And that goes to the last bullet point, as being a communications device that shares our strengths and challenges with the community through the integration with the LCAP. And to answer, I think this may answer your question, Trustee Marks. We're estimating this year $70.8 million in supplemental and concentration grant funds that will go to support the LCAP plan. The focus of our budget development is to ensure that we remain fiscally solvent, as Mr. Hurst pointed out in his presentation. I mean, without that, nothing else really comes after that. If we cannot remain fiscally solvent, and to do so, then nothing else really matters. And to remain fiscally solvent, we rely on a series of assumptions. And you can see those assumptions. Let me get up here for you. You can see those assumptions on the screen. They're revenue assumptions and also expenditure assumptions. Sorry about that. So thoughts on the May revision. The governor's May revision is the last statutory step in the state budget process before the legislature adopts the spending plan. The May revision does recognize significant ongoing investments in education funding. A year ago, the state was forecasting a $54 billion deficit, and that has now been replaced with a $100 billion surplus that the governor has dubbed the California Comeback Plan. You can see the major components of the May revision. A cost of living adjustment, COLA, is compounded because, as previously mentioned, we got zero in the current year, and that's estimated to be 4.05%. And then there is a local control funding formula, mega COLA, of 5.07%. What that does is that takes the 4.05% statutory COLA. The governor has added 1% to that to help cover our cost increases for STRS and PERS pension. If you know, the last couple of years, we've received some buyout money from the state of California one time to buy down the pension cost increases. The governor has not put that in his May revision. Instead, he's added 1% to the statutory COLA, calling it a mega COLA to help offset the increase that we are facing for STRS and PERS pension. The governor's May revision also reflects a permanent increase to Proposition 98 funding, ongoing costs for universal transitional kindergarten, and we'll talk more about that later on as well. The local control funding formula was designed to close the achievement gap. It's based on base grants per pupil by 4 grade spans. The per pupil amount is the same for all school district and charter schools. So whatever we receive by grade span as a base grant, every single school district in the state of California receives the exact same amount of per pupil funding. Where it's different is supplemental and concentration grants, and those are based on the unduplicated pupil percentage for the district. Unduplicated pupil percentage is based upon English language learners, low-income students, and/or foster youth. All funds received through the local control funding formula are unrestricted, and the budget must contain actions and services as defined in the LCAP. That is the main reason why statutorily this public hearing is second on the agenda, immediately following the LCAP public hearing. We receive, here you see the mega COLA added to our grade span base grants per student. And you can see that in the third column is the 5.07% COLA. That amount is added to the prior year base grant to form a new base grant per student based on grade level. We receive a grade span adjustment for kindergarten through third graders. That is to keep our class sizes at or below 24:1. And we also receive a grade span adjustment for 9 through 12th graders. That is for CTE program options for high school students. And then you can see the total base grant amount per student in the far right column. We receive an additional 20% of the grade span for supplemental grant and 50% additional for the concentration grant for our unduplicated pupil percentage. Our percentage is 87.76% for the elementary district and 67.89% for the high school district. This shows a pie chart of our general fund revenue, which 83% comes from the local control funding formula. Again, the intent of the local control funding formula was to provide school districts with the local authority to make decisions. 83% of our funds is generated as unrestricted dollars through the local control funding formula. And then you can see other revenue assumptions used for budget development. We have base funding increase of $21.4 million. That's the 5.07% Mega COLA supplemental and concentration grant increase of $4.6 million from the prior year. Other revenue assumptions, federal revenue has been decreased by $125.5 million. This is due to the elimination of one-time COVID funding in the current year. That will be treated as carryover dollars for anything we didn't spend. And then you will see that in a subsequent budget update. Our first interim budget update, we will now be rebudgeting any carryover federal dollars that we did not spend in the current year. State revenue is decreased by $7.7 million. Again, we've removed one-time COVID funding and any carryover dollars in the current year. What we want to do is we want to project a true operating deficit. So we're trying to remove any one-time funding that we've received, and we remove any carryover expenditures that we have in the budget. And our local revenue has decreased by $3.8 million. That is for the Bret Hart Fire insurance proceeds that we are completing that project as we speak. So a total revenue decrease of $111 million from one year to the next. We have two programs that require a contribution of unrestricted revenue. That would be special education and routine restricted maintenance. There's a couple of reasons why we would have a contribution to restricted programs. One is when the funding is not sufficient to cover the program cost, and the second is when it is required by statute without funding. Special education is underfunded. That is a severely underfunded program by both the federal government and the state government, and it does require a contribution year over year because we do not receive enough funds to operate the services required for our special needs population. And then routine restricted maintenance, that is a statutory requirement. It represents 3% of our total general fund budget. We have to set aside for routine restricted repairs and maintenance. When we talk about budget control, what I've talked about so far is revenues, and those are largely controlled by the state and federal governments. They determine how much we get to spend in the form of the local control funding formula. We get to decide how we spend those dollars. The majority of our budget is spent on people. It takes people to educate people. We are in the business of educating people. That's what we do. So it takes people to do that. 80% of our total proposed general fund budget goes to staff. And when you look at just our unrestricted general fund budget, 83% of our proposed unrestricted general fund budget, those are dollars that we have control over, that the board has control over, sets the priorities. That represents 83% of our unrestricted general fund budget goes to people. And here you can see that just in a pie chart. The three largest pieces of this pie are certificated salaries, which represents our instructional staff, classified salaries, which is our support departments, and then benefits. So those three areas, the biggest piece of our pie, our expenditure pie for our district. Other expenditure assumptions, LCAP items are included in the proposed budget. We have increased salaries and benefits due to ongoing annual step and column increases. So that's $2.3 million estimate. And then we have multiple impacts to employee benefits, health and welfare, negotiated ongoing increase, the one I talked about before for the prior year, that is now ongoing, $2.2 million. This one took us by surprise in the May revision. State unemployment insurance, our percentage into the pool for state unemployment insurance is seeing a dramatic increase in the current year. $2.2 million. That's our increase, which was kind of surprising because if you recall, none of our employees were laid off in education. And so we weren't expecting this because it's part of a pool program and not just education. We have to then help restore the pool to what it was pre-pandemic. Increase this year is $2.2 million. And then pension reform, as I mentioned, the governor chose not to give us additional funding, one-time funding this year. He did choose to make an ongoing increase to our local control funding formula, adding a 1% to the statutory COLA to make it a mega COLA. But you can see our estimated cost increases exceed $2 million for STRS and PERS pension reform. And then retiree incentive plan. We had about 90 employees take the retiree incentive plan. Until we get the new staff hired and find out exactly where they land on the salary schedule, we'll be able to show the cost savings of this. But we have budgeted the full cost because we have to pay the first year of the retiree incentive plan for those employees that took it. Other expenditure assumptions, contract negotiations with Modesto Teachers Association and management are unsettled in the current year, and there is no estimate for potential settlements, neither in the estimated actuals nor the proposed budget. Our restricted categorical budget dollars are allocated, are fully expended. So what we do, if we receive $100,000 of Title I, we propose we spend that full amount of the allocation. So 100% of our restricted dollars are budgeted. And then, as I previously mentioned, we eliminate any one-time expenditures and carryover that were included in the 2020-21 estimated actuals for a true operating budget. So this would be our ongoing operating budget that we have. Does not include federal stimulus funds, AB 86, or any new ESSER money is not included yet. We will recognize in that budget, in our budget, probably in a first interim budget update. This slide represents unrestricted revenue that is transferred out of the general fund to other funds for specific purposes. We at Modesto City Schools are very fortunate to have the ability, the foresight, the leadership to set aside $11 million annually to pay for programs that we do not receive funding for. I've been doing this for 28 years, the last 4 years in Modesto City Schools. And prior to this, I've never been in a district with the leadership, starting at the board level through administration, to plan and set aside funds for future use. This is a great investment for us, and you can see the various areas that we invest in ourselves for future use. These are dollars that come right out of our unrestricted general fund for these purposes. This represents our total general fund, which is a combination of unrestricted and restricted resources. For 2021-22, we have a total $415 million operating budget and a $97.6 million projected ending fund balance. The majority of our time and our focus is on unrestricted resources portion of the budget, as that is what we have control over. You'll notice the restricted column in the middle. Those are dollars that are given to us by either the federal government or the state government or some contributor for us. The dollars are typically to be in that column. They're required to be spent a certain way. We do not have control over that, but you can see the total budget that we have to deal with for our total general fund. The ending fund balance is more than just the $97 million that you see. It must be able to cover restricted resources, ending fund balance, and any other assignments that you see on this slide. Appropriation for economic uncertainties. For a district our size, that would be 3% of our total general fund expenditures must be reserved, assigned in our ending fund balance. But for us, again, because of foresight, leadership, from the board. We have an additional 3% that is board designated, and that is part of our proposed budget and will be maintained throughout the multi-year projection that we have in front of you. And you can see other areas then that of our ending fund balance that we have to assign or reserve, again, based on how the dollars came to us. Beginning in 2019-20, that was the year we doubled our required 3% reserve to a total of 6%. So if you look at the next to last line there, the reserve for economic uncertainties, you'll see in 2018-19 with our unaudited actuals, it was a little over $12 million. The next year, it went to just shy of $24 million. So that was the first year we implemented the 6% reserve for economic uncertainties. And then you also notice the assigned line. That's gone from $9.5 million in 2017-18 to an estimate of $28 million in the proposed budget year. That is made up of unspent supplemental and concentration grant funds. Beginning with the 2019-20 year, we decided to assign those dollars on an assigned line instead of just letting them fall to the unassigned balance at the bottom. So those are unspent supplemental and concentration grant funds that we've assigned until they're approved to be used. The board approves it through a one-time purpose. So that represents why that line has gone up. And you can see the unassigned amount. So when we look at when you start at the top, you'll see last year we had a high of just shy of $108 million. You take that down to the bottom after we reserve and assign items, there's just shy of $45 million available in the ending fund balance that is technically unassigned. So you can see how that works as we look at these large numbers at the top, and then we set aside our reserves, our assignments, and then what we really have available at the bottom. Education 42127D1 requires us during the public hearing to review with the public our reserve balances. These are reserve balances in funds 1, 11, 14, and 17. All of our other funds have a designated ending fund balance, so that fund, the ending balance is designated for us, so we don't have to disclose those here. That's why you only see funds 1, 11, 14, and 17. And then you can see what we've identified as the statement to substantiate the need for the funds. This is also exciting as we focus on the general fund during our proposed budget adoption, but no other district fund is projected to have a negative ending fund balance in 21-22. I'd like you to focus on the fourth line, the cafeteria fund. It does have a projected deficit of $2.2 million for the coming year. That's a combination of lost revenue during the pandemic and planned cafeteria improvements to spend down the fund balance. This year, at the end of the summer, we will tour Downey. Downey is the high school this year that is having cafeteria improvements paid for by the cafeteria fund. And as you heard from Mr. Atwell earlier, if the USDA extends the provision that we have where we can do curbside feeding, right now we're assuming that that's provision's going to end. We're going to be feeding our students at the site. Our participation may be down if not all our students come back. And so that's why you see we're projecting a deficit for cafeteria fund. We're not concerned about this program. This is the only program we have that serves as a business fund. It's like a restaurant. So the revenues have to exceed our expenditures. Otherwise, the general fund would have to give a transfer of dollars to the cafeteria program. Since Mr. Atwell has taken over the nutrition services program, this program has operated in a surplus to the extent that the state of California has said you have too much dollars, and so you have to plan to spend those down. That's why you're seeing major investments every summer in our nutrition services program with new equipment, with remodeled cafeterias, And so we're not concerned about that. In all likelihood, that will not be a deficit once the USDA extends the current program that we have for feeding our students. Multi-year projections, they're a result of mathematical calculations for future years. Those calculations are based upon financial decisions already made. So we use our current year as a base year and then apply a series of assumptions. Multi-year projections are not a crystal ball. It's not a crystal ball prediction or forecast. It is a series of calculations based on assumptions that we know at that given point in time. As we look at our current multi-year projection, challenges are the mega COLA and one-time funding sources that could pose a potential challenge. We're not going to receive a one-time 5% increase ongoing in future years, and we have to make sure that any one-time funds and any one-time expenditures are removed from our multi-year projection. A summary of our multi-year projection: we do have a small deficit spending projected in all 3 years. It is a manageable deficit. If you look at our ending fund balance and how it's grown the last 2 years, at some point we're going to have to spend down the dollars that we have in our ending fund balance. But we are pleased to show this multi-year projection. We're able to maintain not only our 3% reserve requirement, but we're able to keep our extra 6% reserve requirement throughout the multi-year projection. If you look at the middle column, you'll notice the total revenues. It's $349 million, just shy of $350 million in the current year, and we're only showing a $1 million increase in revenue for the next year. That is because currently we're watching our enrollment pattern, our enrollment trends. Our 22-23 projected revenue is based on enrollment for the 21-22 year. That's this year. So whatever our student population is this year, that's going to drive our funding for 22-23. We are currently funded at 2019-20 levels. So we've received flat funding, or we haven't had to experience any decline in our funding due to student decline since 2019-20. While that has been a nice bridge for us, we have to monitor what our enrollment will look like this year, because now we have the potential of facing 2 years of declining enrollment, of which we will be funded for in 22-23. This is a conservative projection. It may increase, but that will be determined by our fall enrollment numbers to see what our funding for 22-23 will look like. Next steps. The Assembly and Senate budget subcommittees on education took action already on the governor's May revision. And as you can see here, they have kept the proposed mega COLA 5.07% for the local control funding formula, and the statutory COLA at 4.05% for categorical programs. The Senate and Assembly budget subcommittees have the governor proposed increasing the concentration grant formula to 65%. Prior, I had said we received 50% additional for our base grant. The governor wanted to raise that to 65%, only for concentration grant districts, of which we are one, both the elementary and the high school district. The Assembly and Senate budget subcommittees have taken that, and their alternative is to increase the supplemental grant to 23.3% from 20%. That spreads the dollars out to more districts throughout the state of California instead of just the concentration grant funding districts. The Assembly and Senate budget subcommittees eliminates all payment deferrals. This is really a cash flow issue for us. The state of California says you're due X amount of dollars, but we don't have the cash to pay it to you, so we're going to defer that to another month, and many times it's another year. The governor had proposed to eliminate deferrals with the exception of one. That would be June. So right now we're not getting any state funding for June. We'll get that in July. Under this plan, if approved, all payment deferrals will be eliminated, and we will receive our cash in the months of which is deserved to be sent to us. I'm pleased to announce again, because of our current economic condition, our ending fund balance, we did not have to borrow any dollars this year to account for the payment deferrals. We had enough ending fund balance in our reserves to get through those months in which the state did not give us our apportionment dollars that we are owed. This is exciting to us. This committee, or the Assembly and Senate, are wanting the CTE incentive grants to be ongoing. This is a year-to-year program. We have to wait to see if it's allocated in the budget. If this is agreed upon, then CTE will get, it'll be an ongoing program, the CTE incentive grant. And then transitional kindergarten expansion. This proposal extends the implementation by one additional year. It now goes through the year 25-26. The governor's May revision proposal had that through the 24-25 year to be fully implemented. And exciting news that I just found out, the Assembly and Senate budget subcommittees are proposing to pay down these STRS and PERS contributions through the 24-25 year. That's not in our proposal because it wasn't in the May revision, but that did come out of these two budget subcommittees, in addition to keeping the mega COLA. So that's exciting news, and that could be some improvement to our projection in the coming months. The governor has until June 15th to take one of the following actions. The governor can approve the budget bill as presented to him by the Senate and Assembly budget subcommittees. The governor can make some specific line item reductions, or he can veto the budget bill and send it back to the legislature. Keep in mind that there's a June 15th constitutional requirement for a budget to be signed by the state of California. We believe it'll be signed, but there's going to be a large amount of trailer bill language that clean up differences between the administration and the Senate and the Assembly budget subcommittees. Go back. We have to adopt our budget by June 21st, and then we would have to submit a budget revision within 45 days if the state budget is significantly different than the May revise. Based on actions that I just shared on the prior screen, we anticipate there will be a need for a 45-day revision once the budget is signed on June 15th. And with that, I will entertain any questions that the board may have.
Thank you. We're going to start with Ms. Chambers to see if there is anyone here, anyone from the public to speak on this item. Ms. Newton, do we have anything via voicemail or email comments on this from the public?
No, we do not.
Thank you. So we have, we'll start with Trustee Irvin and then Trustee Brown for comments or questions.
Yes, thanks for the report, comprehensive report there, Mr. Zerley. I just wanted to get clarification on the fund balance, other funds. And where it says no district fund is projected to have a negative ending fund balance. And so where those red deficits are, what is that relation to? What does that correspond to?
That represents, the first column is the projected ending fund balance for the current year, so how we expect that fund to end this year. The far right column is based on our assumptions right now. What's the ending fund balance for that fund? And so if it's red, we project the fund balance to be declining at the moment, year over year, based on the budgets that we're going to adopt. Okay.
So based on the current budget, the revenues and things like that, it looks like it's going to be, roughly 5 million. I'm not going to say over or under, but more than what's projected there at the 101.
Yes.
Am I reading
So yes, what you're reading right in one of the prior slides, that's the general fund. That's Fund 1. Right now, we're projecting, based on the May revision estimates, which is our best estimates at this point in time, based on our expenditure assumptions, we're projecting that the general fund will decrease by $5.6 million.
Okay, that's what I was getting. Thank you.
Trustee Brown?
Yeah, no specific questions about the presentation, but I do have concerns as we look forward. There's some things that we're seeing statewide. For the first time in a long recorded period of time, we've seen a population drop in the state of California. We're seeing declining enrollment as our demographics shift and the number of children coming from families. We can see declining enrollment not only in Modesto City Schools but throughout the entire state. We've got these PERS and STIRS increases that are going to be continuing as we, serve fewer students with revenue. Will require us to put a larger percentage of our funds into retirement funding. Right now, we've got a strong economy, even despite COVID, and we've had all these windfalls that have come at us from COVID. We've seen over history that there are times where there are drastic shifts very quickly in the way revenue comes into the tax base, and we see cuts hit education. So, as we look forward with a crystal ball, we've got to realize that it's not always in the positive direction that things happen out of Sacramento. So I appreciate the fact that we have good fiscal responsibility within the district, but I'm concerned, even within these 3 years, if we see something change drastically in the economy, we could see a huge shift in the funding that we project. So how do we sleep at night knowing that there is that possibility coming? What do we need to do to be ready for the turns? Because we know they're going to happen. History tells us that that process will be repeated.
Sure. And if you recall the slide on the multi-year projection, I did mention that a potential concern is the mega COLA and one-time funding. It gives us a false sense of security that we've seen before. The last time California had a governor recalled was because of that. The dot-com bust, if you recall, the Gray Davis administration, when large dollars were given to school districts and public agencies on an ongoing basis. And then the high wage earners, the stock market people, that crashed. And then we had subsequent deficits for many years until it came back through the local control funding formula and the economy returned. Reserves are our friend. We are fortunate to have some flexibility. We have some flexibility in the amount of reserves we have that provides us a cushion. But also, if you recall the slide of dollars that we choose to transfer out of the general fund for future programs or future costs, we can look to that at some point if we got to a situation where we had to look, drastically at what can we reduce before we start looking at people or services. So I guess I can sleep at night knowing that we do have time to address any upcoming problems once we recognize them or realize them, just because of the management that we've had that got us to this point. If we talk about declining enrollment, we can plan for that. We can look at our staffing patterns. We can look at our, and plan for a drop in students. Again, we have some time to put that into place. But because of the current one-time funding that we have, we can't just forget about it. That has to be part of our thought, because 24, 25 is coming, and the one-time money is gonna be gone, at that point in time. So that's the best answer I can have for that.
Well, I don't want to project doom and gloom, but I do want us to make sure that we keep that in mind, and that we're ready for drastic changes when they do happen. And the one thing that I take solace in is that we've got a solid team that I trust. And I appreciate the fact that we're watching the dollars carefully, and we'll make it through. So thank you for the proposal, and thank goodness we have play money right now. Lots of good things that we can do with one-time money, and we can make improvements that will be lasting, that will help us educate our students better in the future tough times.
Trustee Marks?
Thank you for the thorough report. Love all the information on this. It helped, and I like seeing the red and the regular colors. I have a question. It's actually on the combined general fund proposed actual budget. It's in the, we'll call it the regular, well, it's the multi-year projection, but it's on the combined one. And so, and you might know this off the top of your head anyway. So it's on the first column A, and it's on the revenues, and the total revenues for this combined general fund on, it starts out in 2021, and it's 489 million. We'll just round it out around that. And then in 2023 and 24, it's 428 million. So it's a $60 million drop in 3 years. So I'm just trying to figure out how it could be $60 million less revenues. Is that, and that isn't just from declining enrollment, but is it because the one-time money ends then? So that's where I was thinking.
Yeah, if you look at the line 2, federal sources.
Yes.
In the current year, it's $103.6 million.
Yeah.
And then in 23, 24, or even through, you'll notice how we budget, how we project, it's flat.
Yes.
So it's $20.8 million.
Right.
So that's the big piece of that.
Yeah.
We remove one-time funding. We can't allow it to be, this goes back to maybe Trustee Brown's comment or question too.
Right.
We can't allow that to remain in our multi-year projection because it's one time.
Right.
And so if it would distort the facts if we left that in there.
Okay.
When you look at 21, 22 through 23, 24, that should be our best estimate for a true operating budget,
Okay.
which is ongoing revenues and expenditures. So any one-time revenue and expenditures have been removed out of our multi-year projection.
Okay, that helps. Okay. Yeah, because when I saw that, I was like, whoa, this is a lot. And then when I was talking to you, I said, oh, it's the one-time money. So thank you. And thank you, Trustee Brown. The comments were helpful as we plan for our future, just to be cautious. And we've always been very cautious. So I appreciate that. We made it through a lot of really tough times, though we did have to cut staff and cut programs. But we're still here, and we're doing well this year. So thank you.
Trustee Maestas?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to make a quick comment on something that Trustee Brown said too at the end there. It's great that we have that little extra money, because the investments that we make right now can save us money in the future. And as we look at those one-time monies, how can we make smart investments that will help us minimize costs in the future to look ahead? And that's just a question to think about as we look at where those monies go. The other question I had was on the state unemployment insurance, how that kind of creeped up and was like, from, I guess, personal experience, do you know what the difference in sub money that you spent this year was for previous years? And did we spend less money through the pandemic on substitutes? Because that might be a source of where I don't know what it is, but I know that some subs that I know couldn't work because childcare or other situations where, when we went fully online, there was no need for a sub. So that might be one place where I know that there's some people in our district that might have needed the unemployment insurance, but I see where that could have been like, oh man, where did that come from? So, I just want to say really, I appreciate all the work that you did on this. This is, after you finished, I was like, whew, wow. I'm impressed that you were able to take that entire document, put it in this little, well, not little, but this presentation. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
See no other lights. I have been checking Trustee Mejia for your hand, and I don't see one, so you're good? You have no comment right now?
No, I'm good.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure we include you. I also appreciate Mr. Zierle's ability to put something pretty complicated into a way that I can understand. So thank you for doing that. We are now going to leave the public hearing and return to our regular meeting. And this was a report, so there is nothing that we need to vote on. And then we're going to our next item, which is B6. And this is going to be another public hearing and approval of the Modesto City Schools Special Education Local Plan, SELPA, Annual Service and Budget Plans for 2021-2022. So we will leave our regular meeting and go into our public hearing. And so we have a presentation on this item. Whenever you're ready. Thank you.
All right. Well, good evening, President West, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Noguchi. I'm Christy Allen, and with me tonight is Christina Romero, and we are the Senior Directors of the Special Education Local Plan Area, or SELPA, and oversee special education for Modesto City Schools. Tonight, we'll be providing you a report on the Special Education Annual Budget and Services Plans.
The purpose of tonight's presentation is threefold. First, our report will provide the board with background regarding the annual budget and service plans. Second, tonight's meeting will fulfill our requirement of a public hearing for the annual budget and service plans. And finally, we will request approval from the board for both of these documents.
The annual services and budget plans align to District Goal 1.6 to increase access to general education for students with disabilities, as well as Goal 3 to provide a safe and welcoming and respectful learning environment for every member of the school community.
Federal law requires that each special education local plan area, or SELPA, as you hear us refer to it, ensures a continuum of our program options that are available to meet the diverse needs of the students in our district with disabilities through our special education and related services. The annual budget and service plans are required to be submitted to the California Department of Education for approval to ensure that the Modesto City Schools SELPA meets the assurances of access to special education and related services, as well as complies with all federal and state requirements.
Because the California Department of Education has changed the forms and the structure of the local plan, there's been additions of the sections that contain the annual budget and service plans. You are all familiar with these documents, as each SELPA is required to submit to the CDE their annual budget and service plans that are adopted at public hearing. These plans ensure that all students with disabilities within Modesto City Schools have access to services and instruction appropriate to meet their unique needs as determined by their individualized education program, or their IEP. The budget plan identifies expected revenues and expenditures for the special education programs in specific goals and functions as requested by the CDE. And revenues include federal IDEA funding, state dollars, and local property taxes.
The annual service plan is located in the materials you have in front of you, but it consists of the descriptions of the services that we provide to students with disabilities throughout our district. The services are based on and listed as state-recognized codes, and they serve as a snapshot that documents the physical location of the varied services that we provide throughout the district to our students per our current data. Our SELPA leadership, in conjunction with our Community Advisory Committee chairperson, presented a draft of our local plan to the Community Advisory Committee. This committee, which is made up of parents, staff, and community agencies that have a vested interest in serving students with disabilities, was provided 30 days to review the draft plan and make any recommendations or adjustments for update. This feedback and input process has been completed, and therefore we are now presenting our annual budget and service plans this evening to the Board of Education and Dr. Noguchi with the request of approval. If approved, we will then proceed in requesting the county office superintendent's approval so that we are able to meet the June 30th California Department of Education submission deadline.
Following the public hearing, the Special Education Office requests your approval of the annual budget and service plans. And with that, we are now available for any questions you may have.
Thank you. We will go first to Ms. Chambers to see if there are any members of the public here to speak on this item. None. And Ms. Noonan, do you have any comments to read from the public on this item?
No, we do not.
Okay, thank you. Questions now from the board? Questions or comments on this item? Trustee Brown?
Yes, as I look at the plan, I see the revenue sources. And there is one item that's listed as other revenue at about 65%. Am I correct in stating that we are underfunded by 65% of the costs? I think it's important that the public knows that number.
Yes.
So 65% of the costs that we as a district incur for our special education programs are not supported by federal or state funds. Is that?
That is accurate.
That comes directly from our general fund.
Yes.
So I'm hoping that the public is aware and as outraged as we should be as board members that we have to take our general fund money to do what the federal government and the state government tells us to do. And we love our special ed kids, and we do what is necessary for them. And I commend the district for the care that is given for each one of these children. But the mandates that we have from the government, I'm surprised, and not really, that with the special funding we have coming out of the pandemic, the federal government hasn't recognized and said, you know, before we have extra money spent elsewhere, let's bridge this gap. Let's fix this problem once and for all and make a commitment that we're going to stand with going forward. It seems logical to me, but somehow nobody in Washington seems to realize how we struggle to make our funds meet our children's needs. So I support the plan. I just want to make sure that the public is aware of how we have to fund it.
Thank you for that comment. I appreciate that, Trustee Brown. Do we have any further questions or comments from the board at this point? See no more lights. We will close the public hearing and return to our regular board meeting for the vote. So I'm looking for a motion now to approve the special education annual budget and service plans. Approved by Trustee Maestas, second by Trustee Marks. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you for the report. Moving on to item B7. This is the approval of amendments to existing employment agreements for Associate Superintendent, Assistant Superintendent, and Chief Officer contracts effective July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2021. And this was supposed to be Mr. Henderson. So who's taking this one? Mr. Zierli, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening again, President West, trustees. I will try to fill in for Mr. Henderson. The Associate Superintendents, Assistant Superintendent, and Chief Officer contracts are valid for a period of 2 years. The current contracts are due to expire on June 30th, 2022. The proposed amendment would change the contract dates as listed on the agenda by position. There is not an additional increase to the board-approved salary schedules as a result of these amendments, and it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the amendments to existing employment agreements for Associate Superintendent, Assistant Superintendent, and Chief Officer contracts effective July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2023.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments on this item first? Seeing no lights, I'm looking for a motion to approve the amendments to the existing employment agreements. So moved by Trustee Irvin, seconded by Trustee Vice President Lopez.
No, I think it was Mejia.
Oh, I'm sorry. Trustee Mejia. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on, do we have any items to be placed on the future Board of Education agendas? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn this meeting. And this is Trustee Maestas, seconded by Trustee Marks. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.